This is the Sons of UCF podcast, your place for UCF sports talk year-round. Now, here is Adam and Mike.
Hi there. This is the 108th edition of the Sons of UCF. My name's Adam. I've got my my good buddy, Mr. UCF Mike, with me as always. Greetings, Michael. How are you?
I am doing pretty good, my friend. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Here's what we got. Here's where we are. We'll do a show rundown, and just so you guys kind of know, obviously we'll talk about the game on Saturday. Obviously, the scoreboard did not turn in our favor, so Mike and I will break all that down. We'll give you our recap, our categories. We'll talk about the future. I know it's on the minds of a lot of people out there, so we will recap all of that good stuff for you. That includes UCF observations, hopefully a lighthearted take on all the bad things that are going on right now. Maybe a little fill in the blank. We'll throw that in there. And don't you look now, but the basketball season right around the corner. So Mike and I will give you a little bit of nuggets here and there on the UCF basketball season, specifically the men's team this upcoming week is their first game. So we'll break all that down for you. Cows, picks, and all the good stuff in between. But before we do that, thank you for listening and tuning in. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at SonsUCF, at UCFMike1. And if you're listening to us for the first time, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button on wherever you're listening to, and every time the show comes out, you'll get it right as it comes to your feed. No work on your part. Mike and I will take care of all that for you. Who didn't put in a lot of good work this week, Mike, was our beloved UCF Knights. In a close one-ish, 36-33, Cincinnati Bearcats over UCF. Dropping UCF now for a third loss in the season, 5-3 overall, 4-3 in the conference. I'll just start here, Mike. What happened?
Well, we got beat by a better football team, I think is what happened.
Okay, yeah.
They got better players. They play as a team better than us. They play complementary football better than we do. They have better coaching than we have, and they beat us on our home field. Only by 3 points, but really they could have scored there at the end if they wanted to.
Yeah,
they controlled the game in the second half when it was needed, and we lost. And we lost to a good team. And Cincinnati is a good team, and they're ranked number 7 for a reason. Nobody's beat them yet. We came as close as anybody has come to beating them all year. But they deserve to win the football game, and good for them. And let's see what they can do the rest of the year.
Oh, that's the show, everybody. We'll be back next week. No, yeah, look, I have nothing else really to add to that, right? Obviously, the game started off really well for UCF. As we've seen a few different times this season, we jump out to a 14-3 lead. We actually have the ball with the potential to maybe go up even more. That does not happen. To your point, Cincinnati starts to figure some stuff out. You kind of felt that they were getting the momentum back. They score on a touchdown, then they score on a field goal, then they score another touchdown. Basically, they reel off 3 straight scores in a row and take a 19-17 lead into halftime. Mike, first quarter, I mean, the start of the game couldn't have been better for UCF, right? I mean, offensively, we looked like we were clicking. We had a quick turnover on special teams, which we never get. Things looked like they were going to fall in our favor. Defense was actually holding their own as well.
Yeah, I mean, we marched right down the field on that first possession, put up an easy score, and then that punt. At first, they threw the flag. I thought, they're going to call us for running into the returner. And who was it that just did a marvelous job diving and
Amari Johnson, beautiful play, just diving and getting out of the way.
Yeah, didn't touch him at all.
And then he recovered the fumble too.
So he picks up the fumble, and then we add a touchdown, and we think we're on our way to a nice performance on Saturday. But these guys shut us down after that. They shut the offense down for the next quarter and a half, basically, and they wore us down in the second half. So that's the style of football we anticipated from these guys, and they were able to execute it against us.
Yeah, I mean, that start was encouraging, right? You saw us clicking on all cylinders. We'd wondered what Heupel had learned, what his game plan looked like. A lot of people assume typically that you script your first 15-ish plays, which would probably be most of that second drive, and those things were clicking. They were taking their shots. They were really working on Ahmad Gardner, which was Cincinnati's sort of, I guess, their best cover corner, a guy who we know last year ended up with a pick 6 INT. And they were working him pretty good. Jalen Robinson was getting a lot of early doses. Defense was holding their own, Mike. I mean, I felt like, to your point, the defense is playing well. Tatum Bethune made a couple of big plays, and Cincinnati looked out of sorts. And it was interesting because, we've seen UCF do this before, and you've seen them jump on teams. But when you saw that, and it's 14-3, you saw how we were playing. If Honest Mike was here for a second, did you feel comfortable at all at that point, or were you like, okay, I've seen this story before, I know how this story can end?
No, I was pumped up, man. When we jumped out to that lead, I was pumped up. I thought, I've been predicting all week, 50-23, we're going to blow these guys out. A lot of me didn't really believe that, but I was hoping for it, and I was hoping it would be one of those games where, things just start rolling and everything goes your way. And I've seen that happen before. Even as underdogs, I've seen that happen for my teams before. And I was hoping that was the case. And it looked like it was going to be for the first few minutes. These guys only gave up 12.4 points per game coming into this game. And we scored 14 in the first half of the first quarter. So I was very optimistic at that point. I had no reason not to be. I know we've seen blown leads already this year. And basically every game we've lost under Heupel, we've blown a double-digit lead. And that was the case again this week. But that was so early in the game. It was the same thing against LSU. I believe we were up 14-3 on them too.
Yeah.
With so much time left, these guys are still not able. They didn't have to go away from their game plan. Maybe another score. We go up 17 or 20 on them early. Then maybe that changes their way of approaching the rest of the game. But they were able to stick with their plan, and it worked for them.
Yeah, I feel like missed opportunities there in the first half, right? To your point, we're up 14-3. We have the ball a couple times. Even we hold them to a touchdown, then a field goal. So it's 14-13 us at that point. You still feel like if we could have punched another one in at that point and gotten to 21, even though they ended up scoring another touchdown at the end of the half there, that would have helped. It just we could not seem to get out of our own way, and this has been kind of the mojo. What's been interesting, Mike, is obviously for all the fanfare offense gets, we go through these stretches where we just struggle. And I don't know sometimes if it's hype out thinking himself. I don't know if it's just the defense adjusts to us. It's kind of that mentality. You get punched in the face and you're sort of like, okay, I got hit, and you get up and now you start to settle in as a defense. But we went through that uncharacteristic lull again in that second quarter where it just seemed like we just could not get anything rolling on offense.
Yeah, and I give Cincinnati a lot of credit too. They have a very good defense, a very experienced defense. These guys played in big games last year. They shut us down last year in the second half. They played in the championship game. They've got a lot of veterans on that team. You mentioned the cornerbacks. These guys are good players, man. Some of these guys are going to be in the NFL next year. I give them a lot of the credit too. It's not just us shutting down. These guys did a good job against us. But we have seen it before on our end. We've seen it against lesser teams. So I guess it is fair to question it.
Well, then Cincinnati comes out of the half. They're up 19-17, and they just put on a ball control clinic, 16 plays, 87 yards, took basically 8 minutes and 30 seconds off the clock and go up 22-17. And at that point, you're like, okay, here we go. But UCF comes out, and they put together a drive right away. We answer back quickly. Marlon Williams with just how do you describe Marlon Williams in that back-to-back sequence? First, he catches a 19-yard touchdown pass. To be fair, he caught a 12-yard pass and knocked over 13 guys for the additional 7 yards to the end zone. And then he catches the two-point conversion where he does something pretty similar, Mike. He was just a man amongst boys, and especially on that touchdown play and that two-point conversion. On NFL Red Zone, Scott Hansen refers to that as the octopus. When you score 8 points, 6 plus the 2. So I don't know if anyone's catching on to that, but the octopus by Marlon Williams.
I'd never heard that before. But the guy is a man amongst boys. He's just stronger than everybody. And his will to get in the end zone, it's unmatched. I don't know who I can compare this guy to. We've seen in the past. He's almost impossible to take down by yourself. He bounces off people. Just a lot of fun to watch this guy for the last few years. And he's gotten so much better year after year. He's putting together one of the best seasons we've ever seen at a wide receiver at UCF. And another great game out of him. We scored a couple big touchdowns, the two-point conversion you mentioned. He was a man on a mission, and maybe he had a couple of things that didn't go right for him, and we'll discuss that, I'm sure, coming up. But you cannot question his will to win, that's for sure.
And then right after that play, we actually hold Cincinnati, forced them to punt, And essentially that runs out the quarter. We have the ball, basically 1st and 10 on our 11 at that point, Mike. Going into the fourth, UCF 25, Cincinnati 22. Where were you at that point? Where was your head at? Were you nervous? Were you like, oh, here we go again? These guys are going to blow it. Where was your mentality, 25-22, starting the fourth quarter?
No, I'm feeling good still. We took their long drive. We held them to 3 to start the half, and then we answered right back, and we took the lead. We have the ball now going to the fourth quarter. I say, hey, we score here, make this a 2-possession game. We're going to win this thing. And we can put these guys away in the fourth quarter with a couple scores. So let's go out and do it. And then, obviously, it's not what happened. Come back with the turnover.
Yeah.
They score. And they scored again after that.
Yes.
And we fall behind 11. Have to score again late with another 2-point conversion just to cut it to a 3-point game. And that was it, man. They wore us down, basically. So that drive to start the second half, no, they didn't score a touchdown, but they kept our defense on the field for half a quarter. And that had to have some effects late in the fourth quarter where we just could not stop them and get off the field.
Yeah, so the fourth quarter starts off with probably I don't want to call it the turning moment of the game, but it certainly was a big one. Pass off the arm off of Marlon Williams right into the Cincinnati defender's hands, and they essentially get the ball 1st and 10 on our 16. It doesn't take them very long to punch it in with a 1-yard run, and we go from up 20, up 25, 22 with the ball, potentially to put together the signature drive. Mike, that's what I was saying to my wife, who was not listening to me, by the way. Is I said this is Heupel's signature drive right here. This is Heupel and Dylan Gabriel signature drive for the win. They're going to go down. They're going to put together a drive, and this is going to be it. This is going to be what we talk about. Starts off kind of rough. 1-yard run, pass incomplete to O'Keefe. Gabriel scrambles for 10. We needed 9. Nice run there. Then another incomplete to O'Keefe, and then obviously the turnover. And things, kind of spiraled down from there. Obviously, UCF then losing momentum, 36-25. We get a late score to make it interesting, and then Cincinnati. So they have the ball, and they kind of do that new in vogue thing where you don't score to give UCF time. So they end up kind of stopping at the 1-yard line, and then they're calling some timeouts, or UCF's calling timeouts. They're trying to kill the clock a little bit, and it was an interesting little sequence there. And then a glimmer of hope, Mike. They bobble the snap on 4th and 1. God almighty, man, if that thing had just scored it loose and someone picked that thing up, that would have been like kick 6 Auburn, Alabama-esque. As it was, we ended up getting the ball back for a second, but stop me if you heard this before. Ryan O'Keefe got tackled and lost the ball, and so game ends in a thud, and obviously UCF comes out on the wrong side, 36-33. And as you would expect, Mike, UCF fans took it well.
Yeah.
They took it really well. Ourselves included, I'm sure. I did not talk to you after the game. I knew you had some stuff going on, but it just it was a tough one. So I guess let's go here first. Let's recap the game first, and we'll get into the next steps and what all this stuff means. But typically, what we do, Mike, is we do our categories. We kind of give you our keys to the game, kind of our game balls, both good and bad, broken down by categories based off previous bowl victories and or losses. And maybe that'll help us kind of springboard into the next conversation, Mike. So let's start that now. Let's just get that out of the way. I'll let you lead off. What's the first thing that caught your attention, and what category are you assigning it to?
Well, it's a cure, which is the worst possible category. Drop balls. There were 6 of them total on offense. Marlon Williams with 2, Trey Nixon with 1, Jalen Robinson with 1, Ryan O'Keefe with 1.
Only one?
Sorry, Ryan O'Keefe with 2.
2
for O'Keefe. Gabriel finished the game 26 for 49. That's 50%, basically. If we catch those balls, he completes 65% of his passes, probably goes over 300 yards. Changes everything in some of these drops. We're up 14-10 early in the game. We're going for it on 4th down at the Cincinnati 23-yard line. Marlon drops a first down that at minimum we're even in Obarski field goal range at that point, but
well,
we could score a touchdown there, go up 21-10, and that changes everything. But yeah, give the Cincinnati the ball back there. The biggest play of the game, you mentioned it already, and it is the play that changed the whole game. We hate to say that games come down to one play, but we have the lead, and the it goes right through his hands. It goes right through Marlon Williams' hands, and it's intercepted. And we had a chance to go up 2 scores. And like we said, we're up 25-22. You said it was the Heupel legacy drive or whatever you called it just now. It would have been a hell of a drive. Remember, we're starting at our own 12-yard line. We got to go a long way.
Yep.
But at the very minimum, go, and we're not a team that eats up a lot of clock, but go on a nice drive and flip the field. At least we're up 3. If they're gonna have to come back and tie the game or take the lead, make them earn it. Don't give them the ball. They get the ball at the 16-yard line. Ritter runs it in. It's 29-25. All the air just completely went out of the team at that point. And, the receivers weren't doing Gabriel any favors on this day with all those drops. And then this is not offense, but another drop. Richie Grant dropped an interception that was right in his hands. And that could have been huge in the game. So balls just hitting us in the hands, man, right? Catchable balls. Not like we had to make incredible plays to make these plays. Plays that you should make. And not 1, not 2, not 3, 7 balls that we could have made. We make 2 or 3 of them. Who knows how this game turns, and especially in these situations. It could have been a completely different ballgame.
And it's so uncharacteristic, right? We had not seen this issue at all during the season, right? I can't remember anything close to this level of droppedness on the offense. We've screwed up plenty this year. We had plenty of penalties. We had plenty of bad play calls, but offensive line play, whatever. But we had not seen anything that would lead us to think that oh no, can our receivers held on to the ball. It's really weird how this stuff keeps happening to us. Like kind of this flukiness of one thing happens and it kind of like spirals, and you see it happen over and over and over again, right? We're not a team. We don't just get one false start. We get 10. We don't have one drop. We have 6 or 7, as you said. And it's kind of weird. Did you think too? And I know this is kind of being really nitpicky, but it looked like Dillon Gabriel was just a touch off for a while there, like just a hair off of what we're used to. And like if we're used to him being at 100, right? He was at like a 94 or something, right? But it just seemed like he just was a little bit off on his accuracy. It seemed like his decision making for a while there. Am I reading too much into that? Did you pick up on that at all? Either him being just a little bit off.
Yeah, he was a little off. Even early in the game, even though we put up those points, he had a few plays that he missed on. Right before, on the very first drive, right before he hits Jacob Harris on the sideline, he had, I think, with Jalen Robinson, who had a couple steps on him on Gardner and underthrew him, where if he hits him in stride, that's a touchdown right away. Just a little bit off here and there. And maybe that's just him anticipating Cincinnati's pressure, maybe him getting rid of the ball, maybe a tick early or just, I don't know what it was, but yeah, he was off a little bit. And I mean, he wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
He still put the ball where it needed to be most of the time. But, yeah, it wasn't peak Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah.
Not the best we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, it doesn't – the only comp I was thinking about was the KZ, first half of the Peach Bowl where he was just, I think 2 for 11. Obviously, Dillon still played pretty well, but it just if you watched every throw he's made this year, which I know you and I and many people listening to this have – it seemed like he was a touch off here and there, and maybe that was nerves, maybe that was kind of over preparation, maybe he was waiting for stuff to happen because he had seen it on film so many times that he was kind of like, okay, where's the safety, right? Just kind of overthinking himself. I often wonder. I mean, I'd love to get a guy on the show in the near future. You wonder if there's almost over preparation when you play a team like Cincinnati because their defense is so good. You almost wonder if like he was waiting for things that he knew were going to happen but they weren't happening, or maybe. We had beat that coverage and maybe just got himself headlocked just a little bit, but ultimately, like you said, all those passes were within hands reach of a receiver and didn't come down. And yeah, to your point, you don't want to say one play makes a difference, but some of those plays certainly would have helped for sure.
Yeah, I mean the ball that we turned into an interception for them, and then the ball that we didn't intercept. I mean those 2 plays right there. Momentum changes, completely changed the whole game.
All right, well, I'm gonna go with my first one. I'm gonna start off with a little bit of a positive category, Mike. I know there's a lot that happened that wasn't so great. I'm gonna give a Liberty second highest honor. I'm gonna give it to Tatum Bethune, Mike. A kid we've seen in spot duty And obviously with the dismissal of Eric Mitchell, additional playing time available at the linebacker position, Jermaine Jean-Baptiste probably got a lot of the early PT, at least from what I can remember about seeing. But Tatum Bethune stepped up pretty big last game. He had a big INT. And then this game, Mike, 10 total tackles. He had 1 sack, and he had 2.5 tackles for a loss. He made some really big plays early on. Even the announcers on the ESPN broadcast were saying he's got a, quote, heavy helmet, which I think means he hits hard. But he was just flying all over the field, Mike. And it was great to see because it's been a while, if I'm going to be honest. The last couple of years, we've been spoiled with really great linebacker play, guys who are all over the field, guys who are making big plays. Shaquem obviously comes to mind. Nate Evans comes to mind. Even though Titus Davis was kind of a down lineman, he comes to mind. Savage Pat. I mean, we'd been kind of accustomed to seeing a UCF linebacker flying around making plays, and for a while there was like, okay, maybe this is our guy. Maybe this is that next guy for us. There had been some thought that it was Gilliard. I'll get back to that in a little bit probably, but Tatum Bethune, Mike, he had a hell of a game, and he gets my Liberty, I guess, game ball for this week.
He's been playing pretty well now for the last few weeks. Can't really nitpick too many things with him. He's been pretty good. Shutting down the run in general, we did a very good job in the first half, and he was all over the field there early. So I like what I see out of him, and he's still got some time left now in the next couple of years to become a leader on this defense, because we're going to be missing a lot of leadership. Like Richie Grant's leaving, the guys that already lost off the team. He can be one of the guys that can step up. Well,
yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot to figure out how we make up for next year. But if you're telling me that I'm going to get this Tatum Bethune all season next year, I mean, I'll take it all day, every day. So really inspired by his play, and hopefully he's the next great linebacker, and we'll go from there, Mike. So that's my first category. I'll go Liberty to Tatum Bethune. What's the second one for you?
All right, I got another cure, and it's defending the tight end.
Oh, okay.
Is this guy Josh Wiley? How do they say his name? Weil? I don't even know.
Fair enough.
Just killed us all day. He had 5 catches for 81 yards with a touchdown. He had a 29-yard touchdown down the sideline. How do we not get this guy? I couldn't. I was screaming at the TV. Couldn't get somebody to knock him out of bounds. He just seemed like he made it look way too easy. And I guess part of it was the game plan. We focused in on stuff in the run, which we did a pretty good job of, like I said. But this guy kept them in the game early. He had 3 catches for 52 yards early in the game, and it just seemed like he was wide open the whole time. I was having flashbacks to 2005 with Garrett Mills, the tight end for Tulsa that just killed us in the championship game. Frustrating. And then that allowed them to wear us down in the second half. I thought the announcer made a mistake. They said that we had the ball for the majority of the first half. We won the time of possessions in the first half. Well, in the second half, we only had the ball for 7 minutes. And even though we were stuffing the run early, this guy kept them in it. And it was just frustrating, man, watching this guy do whatever he wanted to us. We had no answer for him.
Yeah, football's a game of adjustments, right, to your point. Obviously, we came out and Cincinnati did what we thought they would do. They would try to establish the run, and we were all over it. We were there. We were making plays in the run. And obviously, we stopped them on downs a few different times there and forced punts. And so Cincinnati does what good teams do. They adjust, and they figured out ways to get the tight end. They ran the same damn play over and over again, right? That little fake, mesh play, and then the tight end leaks out, and basically Ritter had the option of throwing it, running it himself, or dumping it off the tight end. They ran that play, 3, 4, 5, 600 times. It felt like. And yeah, I mean, it's a jam of adjustments, and how do we adjust to that? And to your point, we weren't able to do it. There was actually the one play where he probably scored, but we got kind of bailed out by an inadvertent whistle call. But he was clearly in bounds, and same thing. He was just run down the sideline. We couldn't stop him. So we probably got a break on that one as well, but they adjusted. We took something away, and their offensive coordinator went back to the drawing board and said, what can we do now? And the tight end came out, and they actually had 2 tight ends. They had Wiley, they had that other guy. I forget his name off the top of my head. I think it was number 11. But yeah, and they came out and figured out a weakness to attack, and by golly, Mike, they sure did.
And that's just an example. I mean, Fickle is a pretty good coach, man. He saw that we were going to stuff him on the run, and he found another way to beat us, and it seemed to work for him. So
Well, then just when we thought we had that figured out, then they come out in this third quarter and just stuff the run down our throat and get every yard they wanted and then some. So it was almost like a tale of like pick your poison, right? We thought we had the run stopped and they bust out the tight end. Then we were like, okay, let's adjust to that. And then they went down to the run play, and then we were like, okay, let's adjust back. And all of a sudden, tight ends are running wide open in the end zone. It was just pick your poison kind of thing. And whatever they wanted, we were able to shut it down for a second or two. But they were able to quickly adjust and switch back if they needed to go, more pass heavy, more run heavy, and they kept us off balance all night, just all night long.
Yep, and that's why they won the game.
One other reason they won the game is my second category. I'm going to give this a cure, Mike. It doesn't happen to us very often. Maybe I'm really, really nitpicking here, but I'm going to go with the 3 and outs. You don't see a lot of 3 and outs on UCF's offense. And it's bound to happen, right? Mistakes are made, whatever happens here. But for us, Mike, these 3 and outs came at some really bad times. So we are up 14-13. This is second quarter. We get the ball back, and we're on our own 25 after a kickoff fair catch. And we go in this order. We go Greg McCray, rush for a yard, incomplete pass to Marlon Williams, Gabriel sacked for 6 yards. 3 plays, -5 yards, only took 1 minute and 8 seconds off the clock. So our defense had just been on the field before. They actually ended up with a pretty at least a pretty good attempt at a play. We held them to a field goal, and so you feel like momentum. We hold to a field goal, we get the ball back, we go 3 and out. Cincinnati gets the ball back, and luckily they also have to start kind of deep in their own territory, but they put together a great drive. And Josh Wiley, the guy you just mentioned, was featured prominently, and they go down and score a touchdown, 19-14 Cincinnati. And so, the 3 and out there killed us. But wait, Mike, there's another one. And so Cincinnati goes up 29-25. Kickoff out of bounds. UCF gets the ball back. They're on 25. Here's our drive. Dylan Gabriel rush for a loss of 1. Gabriel pass incomplete to Trey Nixon. Gabriel pass incomplete to Ryan O'Keefe. 3 plays, -1 yard, 38 seconds on that drive. And so now we're down 29-25, giving them the ball back. And Mike, guess what they did? Went down and threw a touchdown pass to Leonard Taylor, I think is the other tight end we were talking about. And they go up 36-25 at that point. So not only do we have 3 and outs, Mike, we had some of the worst 3 and outs we've had. We had basically chewed up less than a minute of clock basically in both of those drives. And both of those drives then gave the ball right back to Cincinnati, where they went down and scored on us. And so not that you probably can't find a 3 and out on every in every game, and there's probably moments that happens, Mike, but these were just 2 brutal 3 and outs where we needed to get something happening, and it just seemed like we had no idea on either of those drives what we were doing. The running game was getting basically stuffed all day long. I know UCF typically wants to set up the run. On the pregame show, you had called for dual 100-yard rushing games from both Otis Anderson and Greg McCray. Otis finished with 54 yards on the ground. McCray only finished with 19. And so they had the running game stuffed all game long. Heupel kept going back to it. We were not able to really get anything from a big momentum play off that. But those 3 and outs, Mike, were just backbreakers, just absolutely killed us.
Yeah, you said it. The one that at the end, I mean, once they stopped us in 38 seconds, got the ball back and scored again to go up 36-25, the game was over. I mean, we tried to make a little comeback there with the score, but it was basically done at that time. They were in complete control of the game at that point. And 3 and outs are backbreakers, and that's going to happen in this offense. And we knew that was the case when this style came about, even when Frost came along. We're going to move at such fast pace. It's great when it works, but when you get a 3 and out, it's a killer, and your defense gets worn out that way. And our defense got worn out in this game. And that's just the price you pay, I guess, for running this type of offense. You try to avoid the 3 and outs as much as possible, but when you're running for 1 yard on first down and you throw an incomplete and you're in 3rd and long, it's very hard sometimes to convert those. So, yeah, unfortunately, it was what it was.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, what's funny about this though, Mike, is you got to wonder, and I know situations are different, right? But obviously, at some of those plays, you just need some yards, right? You just need to get a couple of yards here, get your offense clicking. And I know that the situations are all different, but if you go back right before halftime, UCF had the ball. We were down 19-14, and we needed to sort of make a comeback. And if you look at what happened on that drive, Mike, if you remember off the top of your head, Dylan threw probably, I'm counting here, 1 to Otis, 1 to Marlon, 1 to Marlon, 2nd to Marlon. So 5 passes Gabriel threw less than 15 yards, and every time, essentially, the receiver got out of bounds. So really, they ran like 3 yards, turned around, Gabriel hit him, and they went out of bounds. Now, I get that Cincinnati was probably playing a different coverage, but you wonder, were quick hitters available? Could we have turned, gotten Marlon around, gotten 2 steps, turn around and get the ball? Even if it only gets you 4 yards, 5 yards, it's an extension of the running game at that point. It's getting you some positive yards. It seems like we went for a rush, got stuffed, went for a long pass, got stuffed, and then went for another long pass, got sacked. Right? There was none of that in between stuff. And that play the drive right before halftime, we had a bunch of 6 yards to Otis, 13 yards to Marlon, 9 yards to Marlon, just quick little hitting, running style plays that are essentially are extensions of the running game by getting just a small amount of yards. And if you feel like could we have done that at any given other time in the game? I don't know, but that's what makes some of those drives pretty frustrating.
Well, maybe on that one drive you're talking about when it was successful, maybe Cincinnati just didn't want to give up anything over the top.
Yeah, for sure.
Giving us those things. But they did a really good job tackling, too. When we threw the ball out to the sideline, a lot of times we're able to break those for 10, 12 yards, 15 yards, and maybe we can break a long one like O'Keefe did at Memphis. These guys did not allow that. Anytime the ball was out there to the sideline, they were on us right away and stuffing the run up the middle. They knew that we were going to do that on first down because we've done it all year. And sometimes it works, but it did not work against this defense. So, that's the key to the offense. If you shut us down on first down and keep us in second and third and longs, then we're predictable. We're not going to run on third and long. And these guys have the personnel to stop us. So they were able to do it, man. They shut us down a few times. And we moved the ball on them. And we put up points, but not enough.
All right, what's your last category option?
I got a Liberty, I guess, for the 2-point conversions. We went for 2 twice, and we got them both times. And, one of them looked super easy, right? And we had one to Marlon and one to Jacob Harris to make it a 3-point game there at the end. And I don't know, it just seems like those plays are a little more creative. I forget who made the comment. I think it was a former player somewhere on Twitter who said, it was Taj McGowan, I think.
It was, yeah. I actually wrote that quote. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually wrote that down to talk about.
It said, if Heupel called all those plays like he calls his 2-point conversions, we'd be unstoppable, something like that. And, we saw it in the Fiesta Bowl against LSU where we had the creative 2-point conversion play. And here, he drew up some nice ones, and it worked. And for this week against the Cows, I'd like to see us go for 2 all the time. Remember when Frost came in and we would go for 2 after every score, especially at the beginning of the game, we go up 8-0, 16-0 on teams? What the heck? Let's do that this week. I mean, I don't have much confidence in Obarski anyway. Yeah. So, but it's frustrating because you see him do it, and we're so good at it apparently. But where was that for the red zone all year? Why are we? why aren't these plays being called when we would get stuffed on first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, and it takes us 4 plays to punch it in from 1 or 2 yards? How come these plays weren't being used back then earlier in the season? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why I wrote that down, because again, that's not coming from me or you yelling on Twitter or some other angry guy in the message boards. It's a kid in Taj McGowan, and granted, he didn't play the last 2 years, right? He was only there in 2018, but he obviously saw the playbook. He saw what Heupel has, so he's basically telling you, hey, we've got a series of plays that we used to run in and around the goal line, to when we needed a quick 2-point play. And it makes you wonder, were there plays this season, Mike, where we needed a couple yards for a first down? Were there plays that we needed, to get 3 on a big third down that we could have had, and instead of running one of these plays out, we tried a little thing up the middle there, or we tried to throw an out route. Like where have these plays been all year? I understand that you have certain personnel groups, you practice certain things differently, but it just kind of makes you scratch your head, because this leads you to think that there is some creativity from an actual scheme perspective that Heupel and the staff have in their back pocket. And it's kind of like, why would you go out not using some of that stuff when you needed a big third down? Why did we not try that when we were pinned deep in our own end zone, and we needed something? Why not rush out with McCray and Otis both in the backfield and run some sort of hybrid formation? They don't have to all be trick plays, but at least something the defense is like, whoa, what are we doing here? To get them off their toes, and that was frustrating, is because you assume that Taj knows of what he speaks. And to know that there's other things, there's other items that were on the menu still that we didn't pull, that's a quick kick in the shins.
Yeah, we know we're capable of doing it, man. So, and we made it look kind of easy. And there have been other games this year where what is our going for two this year? I think we've been pretty successful. I can't remember going for two many times and not getting it. I think every time we've gone for it, we basically converted. So it kind of makes you scratch your head about these other goal line appearances.
Well, something else that makes me want to kick myself in the shins, Mike, is my last category, and that is it's a cure. And I hate to keep doing this. It seems like a broken record. It's Daniel Obarski again. This time, field goal. It was an Aflac, but it got in there, and we needed it. And it was a timely kick for us, Mike. But guess what? Reared its ugly head again. And again, the UCF in the UCF fashion, we don't just do something once; we do it multiple times. The kickoff's out of bounds. We had one early in the game. And you're kind of like, oh, that was okay. That's fine. All right, it's bound to happen. First one of the, I think it's his first one of the year. All right, bad spot, but I think we recovered. I don't think there was too much. I think we ended up forcing a punt on that drive. But then, Mike, let me bring your attention to 36-33. Jalen Robinson has just caught a 10-yard touchdown pass. We had just thrown a perfect 2-point conversion. We are now down 3 at this point. There's still some time on the clock. It's 4:27 to go, and you're saying to yourself, okay, we're still in this thing. Let's pin these guys deep. Let's pin our ears back, and let's just go to work, and let's get a big stop here, Mike. Let's even get them to the goal line, maybe make a big tackle, get this thing out in the end zone, get them out to 25. We teed this bad boy up, 62 yards, out of bounds at the Cincinnati 3. And they get the ball at their own 35, and Ritter and the crew just go about their final drive there. They pretty much held the ball the rest of the time. Now, I'm not saying that we would have for sure gotten a stop. I'm not saying that we would have for sure not, kept them out of the end zone there. But I would have loved to have those 10 yards. I would have loved to have even 15 if we were, able to kick it inbounds or, force them to return it. I would have loved to have pinned him deep, gotten the crowd, although there wasn't a huge bounce house crowd based on COVID stuff. I would have loved that chance, and I feel like Obarski just kind of ripped it out of us when, the defense is like, all right, here we go. Oh, out of bounds. Like, I just feel like that was just another kick in the shins. So Obarski, good kid, man. I don't know what to do anymore, but he gets a cure for the out of bounds thing again.
It drove me nuts. I think it was the very first kickoff of the game after we scored up 7-0. He kicked it out of bounds, and I was cursing him then. He can't kick field goals consistently. He can't kick the ball out of inbounds consistently. Yeah, this is the first time this year, but we saw it so many times last year. I gotta tell you, man, it sucks to say it because he's a kid, and here I am, 40-year-old man, talking about college kids playing football, but I don't want to see him kick anymore. Riley Stevens, is he a myth? We heard that he was warming up before the game. Can we see what he can do? I mean, he can't be that bad, right? Is he kicking them out of bounds? Is he missing extra points and shanking balls to the left like they have no chance of going in? I mean,
yeah, I don't have something. It's not like we're burning a red shirt or something. Like, it's a free year anyway. Like, let's just trot this kid out and see what he's got, right? Yeah, obviously there, takes time to mature the leg and blah blah blah, but. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I agree with you. I feel bad, making fun of a 19-year-old kid or being critical of a 19-year-old kid who's probably trying his hardest and has got all this other stuff in life. But, sometimes just certain things aren't for you. And it just feels like Obarski's, confidence and his consistency just isn't there. And maybe he can work on the off season, but, maybe it is best to see what else we have out there and what other options are available from a kicking standpoint. Maybe Riley Stevens suits up for the Cal game.
How wide is the field? 55 yards?
Sure.
I mean, it can't be that hard to keep it in balance. Maybe he's trying to do something where he puts it on the other side of the hash mark or the numbers or something, but come on. I mean, that is so frustrating, and it sets them up. It's a big difference when you're starting at your own 20 and you're starting at your own 35. I mean, play calling can change. It opens up so many more things. If we can stuff them back there at the 20-yard line, get a little momentum, who knows? We can get the ball back at a decent spot on the field. But
yeah, and it's a killer. It's also one of the easiest parts of the game. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't like on 4th and 1, you've got to stop somebody and you've got, a goal line package in. It's probably it's the thing that you go to the bathroom when it happens, right? You go to the bathroom when the kickoff's coming, because it's an easy part of the game. You just know, all right, we'll kick this thing in the end zone. He'd done it pretty much all day, to give him credit. I mean, he'd been, I think every kick prior to that was a touchback. So he'd been doing it all game. And it's just one of those things where easy is part of the game. And it almost like, didn't O'Leary used to have a quote like there's not one play that really cost you a game. I feel like for this game, Mike, there were probably 4 or 5 plays that if half of them go in the other direction, things are different for us, right? The Obarski kick out of bounds is a huge one. Obviously the glancing ball off of Marlon's arms into Cincinnati's defense's hands was a big one. That Landon Woodson 15-yard personal foul penalty is another one. I mean, those are just plays that, you hate to say one play, is what cost you the game, but if we make any one of those plays, or one of those plays goes differently for us, man, it could be a whole different scenario.
Yeah, Poli with another personal foul too coming over.
Yeah,
because somebody touched Gabriel late. But going back to talking about the easiest part of the game, kicking off is the only play in the game where the defense is not actively trying to stop you or disrupt you anyway. They can't. It's not like kicking a field goal, they're trying to block it or whatever, or any other play during football. The two teams are going head to head. Boom. Kick off. There is nothing they can do. They cannot come up and try to block the kickoff. So it's all you. It's just focus on kicking the ball straight and putting it where you want to put it. It's got to be the easiest part of the game, and you're making it seem so difficult for the last 2 years. It's very frustrating as a fan.
Well, it's always something, Mike. It is always something. Speaking of frustrations as fans, obviously there's a lot of that out there. Mike, let's take a quick break here, and we'll come back on the other side of this quick commercial, and we'll just open it up, man. We'll talk about what everyone's talking about, Heupel and legacy, and where are we in the program and state of UCF football at this point. So quick break. We'll come back, and we'll dissect it all right after this. All right, to talk about serious stuff, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do fill in the blank style. We're going to, ask each other questions that we don't know what the other one's going to say, and that'll elicit some conversation, Mike. So I'll let you kick off with your first sort of future-facing UCF leading into next season, leading into the rest of this season. What's your first fill in the blank question?
Well, I kind of want to reflect on this season a little bit. This season reminds me most of blank year.
You're looking for a number here, not like crap.
Yeah, like which season does this remind you of the most?
Give me 2011.
Of UCF Pep.
Give me 2011. Obviously, because 2010 was, we had a dynamic quarterback in Godfrey. We just won the bowl game, and we thought that we had pretty much all those pieces coming back, and we felt, I think, good about where we were. And, it was going to be a brand new year, and UCF was on the rise. We had an exciting offense for the first time ever, and then we crapped the bed in 2011. So I guess for me, 2011 is the first thing that came to mind.
All right. 2011 to me, I think, was a bad year. Like, I think this is more kind of like 2012 myself. We're beat the teams that we should easily beat, but we don't beat the teams that we could beat, but I guess we just can't get over the hump. We can't beat Tulsa. In 2012, we couldn't beat Tulsa. We had 2 shots at them. We couldn't do it. This year, we couldn't beat them. We couldn't beat Missouri at home, where we had that game. And we gave up like a long punt return, and we had a stupid play before halftime where Bortles takes a sack. Just games that we should win or could win and somehow throw away. But that's also the year where Bortles kind of comes into his own. He starts developing at the end of the year. He has a big bowl game and sets you up for the next year. This year, Dylan Gabriel, obviously we haven't won the big games, but he's put up a very good season stats wise. Hopefully something he can build on going into next year. And maybe next year is his junior year, just like Bortles went from his sophomore to his junior year. And he put all the stuff together and started winning those games that he couldn't win as a sophomore. He couldn't win the games at Tulsa. Hopefully next year is the year for him.
All right, here's my first one for you. UCF is a blank in the American Conference.
Is a blank in the American Conference. Well, we're just another team, I guess, this season. We should be the top of the conference every year. We should be contending for a conference championship every single season. And I'm not saying we have to win it every year, but we shouldn't be eliminated with a couple weeks to go in the season. And that's the case this year. It was the case last year, and we were out of it. When we still had games to play, we mathematically out of it. That should not happen. When we had divisions, we should be winning the division, 4 out of 5 times. But this year we're just another team, man. We're in the mix now with SMU and Tulane. I mean, we're a little bit Houston. That's where we are. We're in that tier. We're not in the top of the conference this year, which I would never guessed before the season. We all thought undefeated, and here we are, right in the middle. I think we're in 6th place right now.
Yeah, that was essentially going to be my answer too, right? We're kind of middle of the road team in the American Conference right now, and that stings to hear, Mike, because obviously we had aspirations of much greater things. You said this on the pregame show on Saturday that we did with Trace and a bunch of other folks. It's still out there, by the way, on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, if you want to take a look. Klubi Ali was there, Tate Gowan was there. You said this is UCF has never gone more than 2 years in a row without being in the American Conference Championship game since we joined the American Conference Championship. Last 2 years, obviously, being 15-16. Obviously, 17-18, we were there. And now we're going to go 19-20 without being in the Conference Championship game again. So it's kind of another 2-year stretch here, Mike. And, again, we've typically the bounce back year comes to the year after that. But right now, to your point, we're kind of a middle of the road team in the American Conference.
Yeah, and then even go back even further. You can 11 and 12. We didn't win the conference, but in 2010 we did, and then 2008 and 2009 we did it, but 2007 we did. So really, next year is the year. If we don't get back to the conference championship game, that's 3 years in a row. We haven't had a streak that long of not winning a conference since the first time we won a conference in 2007. 13 years. So. It's not acceptable around here, especially in the conference we're in. We should be at the top of this conference. We have all the tools necessary. We're in the state of Florida, right in the middle, fertile recruiting grounds. We have some good facilities. We have the fans that back us. Compared to these other teams in this conference, we should be dominating. We should be winning a lot more than we have in the last 2 years, especially with the talent that we have. So, pretty frustrating end to this season. 3 losses 2 years in a row.
Yes, sir.
All right. The position group that was most disappointing this year was what? Blank.
Oof. Position group that was most disappointing, Mike. Well, it's interesting because this group doesn't have it's not a deep group. I'm gonna go linebackers. I'm going to go linebackers because, again, I said it earlier when we talked about Tatum Bethune. I feel like we typically have had like a leading guy in the linebacker position that we can count on to make plays, get pressure on the quarterback, cover guys. Mike, I like Eric Gilliard a lot, but he had a rough game. He was matched up one-on-one with a tight end on one of those touchdowns. There was a play late in the game. It was like a 3rd down, and it was like 3rd and 9, and Ritter broke out of the pocket and was running right down the middle of the field. Gilliard was standing on basically the 1st down marker and did not move. And he was like waiting to see where Ritter was going to go. And basically Ritter ran right past him. I think we made a tackle right close to the goal line, and then I think Ritter ended up popping the ball in for a touchdown a few plays later. Gilliard just looked tentative. Obviously Eric Mitchell, wasn't part of the team. Jean-Baptiste, I think played okay. We saw him in spurts. I think Bethune, to your point, really stepped up the last couple of weeks of the season. We didn't see much out of Quaid Mosier. I know the linebackers aren't a huge staple, and the defense Randy plays just because we have a ton of secondary help. But I'm going to go linebackers, Mike. I feel like that was a group that kind of underachieved this year, and then with some of the turnover and the turmoil, we didn't really get a full year. So give me linebackers.
All right. I guess you can see that, but linebackers, I didn't expect the most out of them. The group I thought coming into the season was maybe one of the best we've had, and we call ourselves DBU, but the defensive backs coming into this season, we thought we were going to have Richie Grant, Antoine Collier, Aaron Robinson, before we knew Tate Gowan was going to opt out, and maybe Bam Moore coming back. All senior guys, lots of experience. They were supposed to be part of what we called, this might be the best defense ever at UCF. Those words came out of our mouth preseason when we were going over the schedule. And, Gowan opts out. Bam never gets back on the field. A-Rob, I think, has been a little disappointing the last few weeks, especially. We had 4 guys preseason that were supposed to be going to the Senior Bowl. They were on the Senior Bowl watch list. Then you got Antoine Collier gets kicked off the team. Richie Grant's had a good year. He's back. It's a better year than he had last year for sure. He's causing turnovers, but not as great as he was 2 years ago. I think his best season here was 2018. Missed opportunity on a play this week where he could have made a big impact on the game with that interception. I'm just disappointed in the defensive backs. And then it caused us to rely on a lot of young guys. We had to start 3 freshmen at corner. And that's not something we were expecting coming into the year. We thought maybe Thornton would get a lot of playing time, but we didn't know we'd be seeing a lot of Devontae Brown and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other kid's name from Weston Hodges. Down here. Justin Hodges. Yeah. Yeah, so I think defensive backs, just because of how high the expectations were coming into the year, is the most disappointing group for me.
The only reason I agree, I mean, I think that I would put that maybe second on my list. And the only reason I wouldn't is because we did get to see those young guys step up. And, Mike, they played okay. I mean, there were certainly some games where they got beat. But even in this game this week, Devontae Brown had a couple of nice plays. Corey Thornton, we saw with interception last week. We haven't seen as much of Hodges the last couple of weeks as we thought we would. You also forgot about Zamari Maxwell, who was a starter at times last year, who basically did not see the field anymore again. On the bright side, we got to see these young guys, baptism by fire. And, at least you go into next year saying, hey, Mike, if our 2 starting corners are Brown and Thornton, you're like, okay, hey, we saw them play. They played well. They have a year under their belt now. Maybe they're going to play better. You feel good about that. So that's the only thing I would tick in that favor is, at least we know what we have a couple of young guys that, can do well. And if Bam Moore comes back, whatever that looks like, we'll see. But Derek Gaines played, fairly well down the stretch. So you've got some young guys who at least got some experience.
Yeah, in the long run, it may end up helping us having these guys out there this year. But when we thought this was the year, we thought the defensive backs were going to be the group that carried us and locked down all these receivers, giving the defensive line more time to get pressure on the quarterback. We know it goes hand in hand, and we didn't get to see that. And not the young guys' fault. They did play good, but I was just expecting a lot more out of this whole group.
All right, here's my next one for you. Josh Heupel should say blank to Josh Heupel, the offensive coordinator.
You're fired. No. He should say he needs more variety.
Okay.
We've talked about it a million times. He calls the same plays over and over, and maybe he's just stubborn with his system. And he does put up a lot of points in this system, but there's got to be other ways to beat a team. He's got to be able to adjust more. He's got to develop a 4-minute offense in games where we can just put it away without giving the other team the ball back. He's got to have more variety, man. It's the same thing, and it becomes predictable, and teams know exactly what they're getting. It's my guy's better than your guy, and I'm going to throw it up there. And, yeah, it works great against East Carolina and Temple. And this week against the Cows, I'm sure it'll be beautiful when we put up a bunch of points. But when you run into teams like Cincinnati that have talented guys at the right positions, it doesn't always work out. And I think he's 1-4 now against teams with winning records in the American Conference the last couple of years, which is not good for him, man. We beat the teams we should easily beat, and we lose to the teams that are right on our level or a little bit higher. And we haven't won the close games. He's got to find different ways to do it. And I guess a lot of it comes down to his play calling. Everybody is upset with his play calling. We know exactly we're going to run up the middle on first down, I guess, and we're going to throw a bubble screen out there. It's the same things. And then you run the deep route down the sideline. Let's see a little bit more. We know it's in there. We've seen glimpses. We saw the jet sweep out of Jalen Robinson a couple of weeks ago that ran for 70 yards. The 2-point conversions that we talked about earlier tonight. He's got stuff in there. Just I don't know why he doesn't want to mix it in.
Yeah, I think Josh Heupel, the head coach, should tell Josh Heupel, the offensive coordinator, that he needs to diversify his offense, right? So diversify was the word, essentially the same word that you used. And I think this is where things get a little murky for UCF fans, Mike. And obviously there are people out there who are calling for Heupel's job. He's not the guy. Get him out of here. And then there are people out there going, "What, are you kidding me? We're going to fire a coach that's, won 70 or 60% of his games and, has one of the most prolific offenses." And Cossack Advisor on our pregame show said something really telling, like, who's going to take this job if you're going to get fired if you lose 7 games total in 3 years? What other big name coach wants to sign up for that? So that makes a ton of sense. About the buyout and basically UCF can't afford to go firing coaches right now. But I don't know that firing coaches is the answer. I think what gets this thing muddied is if you, Mike, were the head coach and Heupel was your play caller and these were the plays he would be calling, you would be going to him going, "Hey man, like we gotta change it up, right? You gotta make a change." Everybody would say that. But because Heupel is the head coach and the play caller, that's where things get a little muddy. So I don't think people want to maybe fire Heupel, the head coach. I mean, you can disagree with some of the things he's done and some of the ways that he speaks to the media and blah, blah, blah. I think what people are objecting to is Heupel, the play caller. I think that's the part where he's got to take this opportunity to go back and look in the mirror and go, okay, like what can I do to change this offense? What can I do to make this offense more dynamic? And the common denominator is, how much of this, though, do you say is the function of not having Mackenzie Milton? Because we saw the 2018 offense, which we were all led to believe, and I don't know how true this is, so this is just conjecture, but it was reported in multiple places. We were led to believe that Heupel kept in some of the same terminology and some of the same basic concepts of the Scott Frost offense to help to sort of bridge the gap in 2018. And we saw what that offense looked like. And obviously Mackenzie was running that offense, completely different situation. And it feels like 19 and 20 are now exclusively the Heupel offense. So part of you wonders if some of those additional wrinkles are in there, how does the offense look? So I think the problems people have, you can point to recruiting and some of the other things. And if you want to evaluate Heupel that way, fine. I think the reality is it's Heupel, the offensive coordinator, that needs to be fixed here, and how that happens is going to be fascinating. But I think that's the key to unlocking a potential improvement, quote unquote, for next season.
Yeah, I think the problem is he has the same game plan going into every game, regardless who the opponent is. So he wants to play to his strengths. He's like, we do this well, so that's what we're going to run, instead of how can I exploit this team? This is their weakness. Let's attack them this way. And one week it may be, Cincinnati's got a great run defense. Maybe, we'll try doing this. Or Temple's got a good pass defense. Okay, we got to run at him. And he's got to switch it up week to week, depending on who the opponent is. It seems like he has the same game plan every week. It doesn't matter who we're playing. So I think that's a big factor. But the Mackenzie Milton factor, I mean, we might just hit the nail on the head right there. You have Mackenzie Milton. Doesn't matter what play Heupel calls. If it starts out badly, Mackenzie Milton can still make it into a good play. And how many times did he bail him out in 2018? And same thing for Frost in 2017. Take a bad play, turn it into a good play. That's what made him so great. His ability to just be able to use his legs and his arm. And I mean, Mackenzie Milton, I could win a lot of games, I think, as head coach if he was my quarterback. Put
a resume in. Well, here's the thing. People are, there's obviously this talk now when Heupel struggles, you see all this, like, let's take Frost back, blah, blah, blah. Well, let's be fair. Frost's offense in Nebraska has been pretty crappy too. So what's the one common denominator if you think about Frost's offense and Heupel's offense? The common denominator is Mackenzie, right? Frost's offense under Mackenzie in 2017 was just a juggernaut, right? We could do no wrong. We called some fantastic plays. We got some great, we got good luck. And if things broke down, Mackenzie made plays for us. Same thing in 2018, right? That's what he was doing. He was making plays for us. If things broke down, we were in a rhythm there in 2018, even though it was a little different. And there were some struggles early on where we just weren't as sharp as we thought. I remember 3 interceptions against South Carolina State, but there was a bit of that rhythm there, and so Mackenzie is a good common denominator here. But let's get down to brass tacks, Mike. Obviously, a lot of people are saying Josh Heupel should be fired. Do you, Mike, UCF Mike, do you co-sign a Josh Heupel termination?
No, I don't want him fired right now. There's many reasons, but when he took this job, he was taken over from a team that was undefeated. And we said when he came in, this is the hardest job to take now because of that. And now the expectations have risen that much more. And we're seeing the effects of that now. I mean, anything but going undefeated was a step backwards. And even though he went undefeated in the first regular season, now losing 3 games in a row, 3 games for the last 2 years, it seemed as the program's heading downhill. So he's got that going against him. But also, like Cossack Advisor nailed it on the head, man. If you're going to fire this guy for winning 80% of his games, who is going to come in here and replace him? We don't have the money to go out and get the top tier coach that's available. We can't go out and sign whoever Michigan is going to go after, or Ohio State would go after, or any of these big time schools. We can't afford those guys. I don't know who that guy would be right now, but that's not in our budget right now. Our last couple coaches have been first-time head coaches, and when we do have to replace Heupel, most likely we're going to have to get a first-time head coach again, and you don't know what you're going to get out of those guys unless you get an older guy that wants to retire here and make this his last job, like George O'Leary. And I don't know what guys out there is available right now. If you're going to fire him, you got to tell us who you're going to replace him with. And I don't know what the correct answer is right now. Who do people want? Will Muschamp? He just got fired from South Carolina.
I hope not.
I've seen Hugh Freeze's name mentioned by somebody on one of these social media sites.
He just signed an extension with Liberty. Not that matters in college football, by the way. Yeah, you're looking at one of these young offensive coordinator types. Graham Harrell at USC gets thrown around. There's Jake Spavital, who used to be the Texas A&M. He's the head coach at Texas State. Like you're gonna be in that sort of realm of coaches. Maybe even Mike, a Jeff Lebby reunion.
Or maybe, I know why Danny White goes after these offensive guys, because that's what sells tickets, and that's what his number one priority is, to get people to come to the games. But usually when you go from one coach to the other, you go from one extreme to the other, going from offense to a defensive-minded guy might be the way to go. Who knows? But I don't think it's happening, and you're talking about, I don't know how much is he owed, or the buyout would be a couple $1 million. We just lost $12 million in revenue this year because of COVID. There's no way we're throwing away a couple other million to get rid of a guy that's won 80% of his games so far. It's just not happening. People in Texas used to go nuts about Mac Brown every year. He couldn't win the big one. He would lose 1 or 2 games a year. He was still winning 9-10 games every year. They wanted to fire him, and then eventually he ended up winning a national championship with Vince Young.
So what do you say to the people who would say that, yes, UCF is winning games still, right? And 80% win percentage, and one of the most high-powered offenses, and on paper, you look at Heupel's, his record and his stats, and you would go, okay, good coach. But what would you say to the folks who are like, but yes, I watch every game, I see the cracks in sort of the Heupel system here, and you said something earlier that the program is kind of on a downward spiral. What would you say, or do you think it's fair for the fan who says, hey, I've seen Heupel coach, I know that there's some cracks here, and I feel like we have taken a step or two back from where we thought we might be at this point in time? Do you think that's a fair statement or a fair assessment?
Yeah, it's fair, because we shouldn't. The games, losing against Cincinnati, the number 7 team, that happens. It's the other games. It's the Tulsa games that drive everybody nuts. The games against Memphis, where we score 49 points and we still lose. That's the killer. And those are the games he cannot afford to lose. He's not a perfect head coach. We already knew that. And I've said it 100 times on this show why I didn't really like him as a head coach, is because he's just an offensive coach. Is all he is. He's not a full team coach. Randy Shannon coaches the defense. He's not in charge of everything. Maybe he should give up play calling abilities and focus more on the whole team. I know he's not going to do it, but maybe in the best interest of the team is something he should do. It'd still be his system. It'd still be his playbook. He's just not calling the plays as the game's going on, but maybe that'll allow him to focus more on the rest of the team. I don't know what the answer is, man. I don't think we're getting rid of him.
Well, yeah, I think I don't know anything more than you do, but I think it's pretty clear that Heupel is not losing his job this year, right? I think for all the reasons you mentioned. One, I think he's been there 3 years on the job, and is that enough time to evaluate somebody? How do you evaluate a coach, Mike? What do you think makes success, right? So first, obviously. I'll say this because I feel like I have to, because it's what people would expect me to say, is they have to run a good program, and they have to make sure the kids are good kids and they graduate, right? Obviously, Heupel just had an off-field incident. It's not all on him, but If you were checking the box on a performance review, you might check that one in pencil. Right? You don't put it in ink right now because you don't know. But, he did have, obviously, an incident with a lot of the guys on the defense. There was another player, unfortunately, earlier this year, Raymond Cutts, who got in some trouble. I don't know if I put all that in hype, but I put it in pencil and say, okay, I think he's done a good job there. And I would also say for every, one or two guys who got kicked off the team, there's a Marlon Williams, there's a Notice Anderson, there's a Dylan Gabriel, there's a Sam Jackson, there's a Landon Woodson, who are doing great things in the community, who are, who are good kids, who are graduating, who aren't in trouble. So it's always fun to find the one or two who did, but you think about 90 kids in the team and 2, 3, or 4 may have had some issues, right? Percentage wise, that's really not a big amount. Then you think about winning records. Heupel's had a winning record every year he's been there, right? Check the box. You think about conference championships. He's 1 out of 3 now, right? 33%. Is that good enough? I guess that's the part where you circle and go, okay, is that where you want to? Is that where we want to be at? If he wins one next year, he's at 50%. Is that better? If he loses one next year, he's at 25%. I think that's an interesting make or break year. The year 6 Bowls, same thing, 1 of 3, 33%. Bowl games, he's 3 of 3. Well, we assume he's 3 of 3 for 100%. So you look at all those factors and you put them all together, and I think that's how you evaluate a coach. And you look at all that stuff, and I just wonder, do you have enough of a sample size? 2020 is a weird year. It's going to be an interesting year for everybody. I think Danny throws this year out and says, okay, yeah, it is what it is. But I do think that you're beginning to start to see the sort of the report card and how it might be graded out. Because if things continue down this path next year, then you have maybe a bit more of a damning report card overall, Mike. But I think at 3 years in, it might just be a tad too soon to really make that determination.
Yeah, this is a weird year overall with COVID. The whole season has been weird. But 4 years is typically where you start judging them, because next year is, like you said, make or break. Can he get back to winning the conference? And next year, now he doesn't have all these Scott Frost players on the roster anymore. He's losing a lot of guys now this year that came in when Frost was here. Now, next year, the team is basically all his. And we got to start seeing improvement now. That's it. You can't lose 3 games next year. You lose 2-3 games next year, I'd be willing to say we can start looking for a replacement. If we're not in the conference championship game next year, if we're eliminated before we even get to play the Cows next year, then I'll be on board with these people. But I got to give them one more shot, I think.
And I do think that you will see some staff changes this year. I think that while Heupel, I think, will stick around and be back, I think you will see some changes to the staff. I'm not reporting anything. I don't know anything. But obviously there's a lot of speculation about Randy Shannon's contract and how much that is and when it's up. Obviously, if Randy weren't a part of the staff, you think maybe some of the other guys he brought in wouldn't be there anymore. So maybe see some changes there. Does Heupel decide, or does Danny go to Heupel and say, listen, I need you to be all in as my head coach, not as my coordinator. I need you to diversify and give the playbook to Golish, or give it to Tucker, or hire somebody else in for all we know. I don't know. So I would think, Mike, that you're not going to get the full sale. You're gonna cut Josh Heupel, but I think you're going to get some changes overall to the staff and to the scheme.
Well, that's always the first step. Usually there's a scapegoat. It would have been Shenander. You get rid of a defensive coordinator to extend your job a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's always the first step. You get rid of somebody else first, and then if that doesn't work, then you're out. So
that speaks to next year, though, right? Because the conjecture has always been that Randy was not Heupel's hire. That Randy, I think it's actually a fact, right? I think Randy was Danny's hire. And so you can see an element where Heupel says, "Hey, let me get my own staff, Danny. You made me bring this guy in. You made me bring these other guys in. We don't mesh well. We don't do this. We don't do that." Now, granted, none of that solves any issues on offense, by the way. But maybe that's the argument that Heupel can make to his boss and go, "Hey, like let me do this my way. Let me bring in my guys. Let me bring in my system. Let me bring in the people that I know." And maybe that does get him another year. I'd be really curious to see if Danny would do anything in terms of asking him to do something with the play calling, because I think that would be fascinating if he'd be willing to give that up. I'm not saying it'd be better or worse. It would just be interesting to see how Heupel would react if Danny said, "Hey, be a total team coach here."
Yeah, I don't know if Danny would say that to him, but it's gonna make next season very interesting, depending on what the coaching staff comes back. Remember, the first year he was here, everything was fine and dandy. We went undefeated. We only lost the last game. The whole entire coaching staff came back the following year. And this past season, we lost a few guys. So Levy left. We've had to replace a few guys here and there. We haven't had a big turnover on the coaching staff for the last few years. It'd be very interesting if he got rid of a few guys this year. And who knows if he even has the say in it? Because like you said, Danny White hired Shannon. Danny White might just say, Randy Shannon's staying. Who knows? But I wonder if he'll give Heupel the opportunity to make those changes.
Well, a lot to figure out. I mean, again, I think overall, you understand the fans' frustration with where things are at. There's certainly you can see, if you want to be really honest with yourself, you can see some cracks in the foundation of where things are at, right? You can see some areas where we need to continue to improve, and we haven't taken that step forward. When the biggest knock on your head coach is he can't beat Tulsa, that's a thing that needs to be considered. And so, especially, Mike, here's the problem, because Tulsa and Cincinnati, last I checked, they're not leaving the conference anytime soon. So if Heupel can't beat those teams consistently, then that's always going to put us behind the 8 ball for a championship. And then you throw in Memphis being good one year, Houston being good one year. But either way, as much as maybe some folks want a wholesale change, it doesn't feel like it's the right time. It doesn't feel like it's in the cards. And I think you get one more year of Heupel, and then you see where you are after that. I think that's kind of hopefully where Danny's leading. But you never know, because here's the thing, Mike, if Danny fires Heupel, he is going to get dragged through the media. I can just hear Feinbaum now being like, who does this Danny White think he is? 80% winning percentage, and this guy's not good enough. Who is this guy? Like, he's just going to get dragged. Not that Danny White cares about that kind of stuff, but I can just hear the Feinbaums and the Herb Streets and everyone just railing against Danny White firing a coach, that has 7 total losses in his career.
Yeah, it's not happening. The only way you can convince me that it's going to happen this year is if he loses this game coming up to the Cows. Then he's out. I don't care what we got to pay him or whatever. You lose this week to the Cows and embarrass us on Black Friday, then I'll be all on board to get rid of Heupel train. Until then, I think we got to sit through another year and see what happens next year.
All right, well, hopefully we got that off our chest. And again, to Mike's point, big one, rivalry game. Heupel said trophy game this upcoming week against the Cows. You win that one. You at least leave with a good note, Mike, and hopefully maybe springboard you to a big bowl game and on to the next season, because that's unfortunately where we are right now. But coming up next, where we're going to be is UCF Observations. We'll lighten the mood a little bit around here, have a little fun. UCF Observations coming up next on Sons UCF. It's that time, observation time, UCF observation time. We've got news, we've got notes, we've got things we've written down. We could not fit them in the show elsewhere, and so we have a whole segment just for you to listen to Mike and I give you some probably pretty bad one-liners. Mike, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. UCF observations, buddy. Take us off the top here.
A 90-minute pregame show this week. Soon we're going to be doing 3 hours like College Game Day, and we do it without commercials. So that 90 minutes is really like 3 hours now.
Should we take commercials? I'm open.
Yeah, if somebody wants to run some.
Run a tape. Good Lord, Mike, those ESPN announcers were horrible. Listen, I love a good random Memphis Grizzlies shooting guard as much as the next guy, but 2 Dylan Brooks references? That just seemed excessive out of Mark Jones.
I'm glad I don't listen to those guys.
Do you have any idea Do you have any idea who Dylan Brooks is, by the way?
No, it's supposed to be Dylan Gabriel.
It is. It is. He called him Dylan Brooks twice. Dylan Brooks is a shooting guard for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh boy! Even with the extra 30 minutes, we still haven't found Jeff Godfrey. So.
All right, parents of you with kids, avert your ears here. Luke Fickell seems kind of like an asshole to me, Mike. I'm not gonna lie to you, he kind of does.
Yeah, when he's one of those guys, when he's not your guy, he's easy to not like. When he's your guy, I'm sure you probably love him.
I got annoyed at his post-game press conference. They asked if he wanted to make an opening statement. He said, I think we just made a statement.
Yeah, you would have loved that if that was Heupel.
Yeah, I'd be all over it. I'd have my shirt off right now, but the reality is it's not. So, what are you
Chris Robinson, we just made a statement T-shirts would have been coming out the next day.
That'd have been good. That's a good T-shirt, Chris.
Up 14-3. I felt very good about my 50-23 prediction, but we know how that went.
Avery Diggs the green bean casserole.
What?
Names that connote Thanksgiving. Here we go. Avery Diggs the green bean casserole. Avery Diggs.
Yeah, Diggs could have been anything.
It's basketball. Yeah. They'll get better.
6 drop balls, and none of them by Jacob Harris.
That's wow. Wow. That is a good
Wild,
point.
right?
Wow. Nick Toth. U-Haul truck. Collision course.
Ritter smiling going into the end zone. This really pissed me off.
Mike, it's a good thing Ryan O'Keefe can scoot because those hands. Ooh. Yeesh.
I thought the biggest idiots were on Twitter, and then I opened up Facebook. Oh, my goodness gracious.
I will say, Mike, the matchup did live up to its billing. We were told what we were going to get, and we got to see a dynamic, high-powered offense execute at a high level. And UCF offense is pretty good, too.
People saying that Frost wins that game don't remember the games against Houston and Temple and Arkansas State in 2016. We blew some pretty big games there, too.
Dre, I just ate so much turkey. Could I be any fuller?
See, now that's better.
Thank you.
The 2013 UCF team would house this 2020 team just like they did to Baylor.
Oh, God, yeah. Who's arguing against that? Find me that, man.
Nobody. That was just an observation I had during this game.
Virtue Rears again. Cincinnati tight end Josh Wiley. Seems like an asshole to me, Mike. Rocking the baby in the end zone. Then he did that little stupid dance on the other touchdown. I mean, granted, he's in the end zone, so maybe we should stop him from getting there. But I'm just saying, that seemed like a jerk.
The 2014 UCF team would beat this team with a crazy finish somehow.
Yeah, I think Holman would throw a long bomb. I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, the way we don't finish games now this year, with their ability to come back and even like a Brandon Alexander strip at the goal line type play or the Hal Perriman, somehow that team would pull this one out against these guys. That was a good team, too.
Yeah, underrated.
Lost a couple games early, but
yeah, underrated. Landon Woodson. Next time, buddy, why don't you just make it easier on the referee? And after you hit the quarterback late, just go pull the flag out of his pocket for him. Just make it easier next time.
Mackenzie Milton, victory formation, collision course.
Jeff Scott says he expects his team to play really well against UCF. He does know he doesn't coach at Clemson anymore, right?
We're a basketball school now anyway.
Demarius, I think pumpkin pie is really good.
All right.
Okay. I also could have gone Cam good, but he's got an E in the end, so I went Demarius.
People who think we're firing Heupel after we lost $12 million this year don't know what the hell they're talking about. Speaking of hell, Don Williams.
As the Sons of UCF pregame show host, I think I failed you all this week. Turns out the most exciting thing we should have live streamed for you was UCF Mike's postgame dinner with the in-laws. That seems like the actual live stream we should have had overall.
Well, do you want to know how it went? We got time for this?
Who's going to stop us?
Nothing. Actually, we were supposed to go to some restaurant. We went there. The place was packed. Like, not following any COVID laws. We took a peek inside and we left. We came back. We stopped at Publix. I picked up some crab legs and steaks, and I just grilled here at the house.
All right. Sounds good. I actually have one last one, Mike. No matter how bad it could be, at least we're not the cows. Those are your UCF observations. You got any more names that sound like Thanksgiving? I was drawing a blank on a few of these.
I think I had a whole bunch of them last year when we did this, but now I don't remember.
All right, well, check in. Well, I would tell you all to listen to last year's show because you may hear them, but that doesn't exist anymore. But what does exist, Mike, is basketball season around the corner. We are here. We're going to give you a quick little preview. Mike and I have been doing some research, and we're going to preview the upcoming hoop season for the Knights right after this break here. So don't go anywhere. Basketball's around the corner. Sounds UCF.
This is UCF head coach Josh Heupel, and I go 1-0 every week with my guys Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Charge on, go Knights.
All right, Mike, you were right. We are a basketball school now. And hopefully, knock on wood, who knows? A lot of things are getting COVIDed early on. But the Knights are scheduled to tip off Saturday. So the 28th at home, Oklahoma coming to town, 2 p.m. Don't get rid of that ESPN Plus subscription just yet, Mike, because that's where you can find that game. Followed that up 2 days later, Auburn comes to town, another ESPN Plus game, Mike. And the basketball season tips off. Schedule is out now, finally. We did get some good news today. C.J. Walker, the transfer from Oregon, has officially been declared eligible, and his waiver has been approved. So C.J. Walker will be on the court this year, Mike. How are you feeling? 2020-21 hoops schedule for your Knights. Prospects looking good for you?
The schedule is brutal.
Terrible. Those first 6 games are murderer's row, by the way. Oh, man. My gosh.
Oklahoma, Auburn at home, then at Michigan, at Houston, at FSU, and then Cincinnati back at home. Michigan is ranked number 25. Houston's ranked number 17. FSU is number 21 to start the year. That is a killer 6-game schedule to start. And what's missing from this year that we had last year? There's no Prairie View. There's no Green Bay. There's no NJIT or Pepperdine or Sacred Heart to get warmed up into the season. We get straight into the hoops this year. It's going to be very tough. What would you consider a good start to those 6 games? What are you looking for?
Well, I want to win the conference games for sure, but I don't know that we will. I mean, if we go 500, I would be ecstatic.
Yeah, 3-3 after those 6 for sure.
Yeah, if we go 500, I would be ecstatic. Now, again, even if we don't win the 2 conference games, right? If we can win Oklahoma, Auburn, and at Michigan, that's the other thing. I don't know where the other win comes at. Yeah, if we go 3, give me a 3-piece there, I'd be good, Mike. But we've seen this before. We've gone through a lot of the basketball seasons in the past, and this is what scares me about this early start. Is we've seen this before. The teams get on a run like this. And, all of a sudden they lose 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row, and it's tough to get that thing turned around. And we've got a really interesting squad coming back this year, Mike. There's a ton of potential, and there's a ton of guys who we think are going to be really good, but the reality is we don't have a ton of experience per se at some of this positions. So let's just kind of run through this. Colin Smith, for those who maybe aren't aware, is opted out essentially, Mike. He will not be playing this year. I don't know that we got a lot of clarity there, but the net of it is he's not playing this year. Cesar DeJesus declared himself eligible. I believe he's playing overseas in Europe. And then Dazon Ingram, he was a 1-year transfer from Alabama. He is gone. So those are 3 of our top 4 scorers last year. Colin Smith being our leading scorer. So we lose a lot of scoring, but we've got a lot of young potential guys. I'll run through some of these guys that we heard, Mike, and we can kind of stop and talk about it. Let's start with the backcourt, because we've got some interesting guys in the guard spot. Tony Johnson Jr. is a guy who came on late. He only played in 20 games. He had 2 starts, averaged 3.8 points a game, an assist and a half a game. But he brought an up-tempo style when he was on the court last year, which was a bit of a difference between what Dazon Ingram was as our point guard, which is kind of more ball control. Tony was getting to the rim a lot. He was getting contact around the rim. Didn't shoot the 3 really well, 20% from 3, Mike. But he was exciting, at least in the times we got to see him last year.
Yeah, he showed glimpses last year where he looked like he was going to be something. He could be pretty good. I kind of liked what I saw out of him. But, he was a freshman, young guy, and maybe now with a little more experience, he can take a step up this year. But I kind of like some things I saw out of Tony Johnson last year.
Then we have a healthy Dre Fuller coming back. Dre's a sophomore. He played 20 games last year, averaged 6 points a game. Again, doesn't shoot it well from the 3. But, Mike, this is like your quintessential slasher. He gets to the hoop, athletic kid around the rim, can finish around the rim. Pretty good wing defender as well. So we'll see what we have in Dre Fuller. He did not get a chance to play a full year last year because he was injured. But, even Johnny Dawkins mentioned him out, signaled him out as somebody who's had a really good camp so far and somebody he's interested in. I think I think he's a good kid. We just haven't had a chance to see him on the court very much.
Right, and they can add some depth to this position because I don't anticipate him being a starter or getting really a lot of minutes with some of the other guys we have out there. But he's a guy that has experience and he can add a little bit of depth.
Then you have Brandon Mahan. He's a senior. He transferred from Texas A&M 2 years ago. 7 points a game last year, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. He made some timely threes. Good defender on the ball, Mike. He's not necessarily, even though he averaged 7 points a game, I don't think he's that guy you're going to go to down the stretch. Although he had a couple of big games towards the end there where he was able to make some tough buckets for us. But good defender. I think can play both guard spots. And he shot the 3 okay last year, not wonderful, but he shot the 3 okay, and he'll at least give you some of that veteran depth. And then lastly, we have Darius Perry. So Darius is a transfer from Louisville. He only averaged 5 points a game and 2 assists. But, Mike, this guy shot at 38% from 3 last year. 6'2 kid, obviously got a lot of experience. So he's certainly somebody that we haven't quite seen him mesh with this group yet. But you certainly can see a path where this guy gets some playing time on the court this year.
Right. I think maybe he's even starting to start the year because he has that experience, played in a lot of big games over at Louisville. We're going to rely on him a little bit early in the year, especially against some of these bigger schools that we're playing to start off the season. Maybe he's had a little experience against these guys.
So that's kind of the backcourt. Those are sort of the guys who probably rotate in and out of the backcourt. Now, if you think about the guys on the wings, Mike, this is maybe where things get a little interesting because we have really 3 guys here I think that are really dynamic. First off, we'll start with Darren Green. He's probably the name you know the best. He put his name in initially for the NBA draft, pulled his name out pretty quickly. So he's coming back this year. Averaged 10 points a game last year. Shot about 40% from 3. Mike, he's the kind of guy. Matt Williams said that this kid can challenge his 3-point record and has some unlimited range. We saw him play some tough minutes down the stretch there. He can kind of put the ball in the dribble a little bit and get his own shot, but I think he's going to have to improve there. He's also a skinny kid. He's 6'4", like 185. So he doesn't have a really big frame, Mike, but he's certainly deadly from beyond the 3-point line.
He could be the next homegrown star that we have here. He's the best shooter maybe we've had since Matt Williams. And you can tell he wants to be the guy. He oozes confidence, this kid. And he had a very good freshman year. And you can tell he wants to be the guy that gets the ball at the end of the game to make the big shot. He's not scared of those moments. I loved what I saw out of him last year and anticipate another big season from him.
6'8" C.J. Walker, transfer from Oregon, Mike. Hometown kid, went to Oregon for a year. He played some games. He played about 14 minutes a game last year. Only averaged 4 points a game. I saw some highlights. I have not seen a full game out of his, so I can't give you a complete narrative, a breakdown. But here's what the numbers would tell you. He only shot 29% from 3, only 38% from 2 from the field, and 48% from the free throw line. Now, again, those are not good splits, by the way, if you're scoring at home. So I don't know how Oregon used him. I don't know, garbage time minutes or how he's played. He did have a couple starts on the season. But by all accounts, this kid is a crazy athletic. Again, he's 6'8", huge wingspan. Doesn't have maybe the best shot, or we haven't seen him really shoot it very well. But he's going to bring a ton of athleticism to the team. Like if he can get to the rim and open up shooting avenues for Darren Green Jr. or for Darius Perry, who's out there, and he can be kind of that guy that you can rely on to get a big stop or a big rebound. He's a dynamic kid. I'm dying to see how this kid meshes in with the rest of our team.
Yeah, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. I don't think we've ever signed a 5-star ourselves coming out of high school. So probably the biggest recruit we've ever had. Like you said, he's got size, and he's a defensive player. So he causes a lot of problems on defense, which is most important under the Johnny Dawkins system. And any offense he provides will be a bonus now. And he seems to be, although he didn't put up big numbers on offense last year, he has the potential to do that, especially when he gets down here at UCF.
Yeah, and obviously Oregon is a system where a lot of 4 and 5 star players play. So was the offense running through him? Was he getting a lot of shots? Was he basically getting the ball and shooting every time because he wasn't getting opportunities? So again, same thing with like Heupel's coaching, right? The devil's in the details and the numbers. So obviously his splits aren't great. His points per game don't jump out at you, but you also don't know how he was using the system. So let's see how that translates here. But Mike, and don't forget this either. We also have the reigning Florida Mr. Basketball, Isaiah Adams, on our team. 6'6" freshman. Again, Mr. Basketball in Florida. Obviously, we haven't seen him play a ton at the high school level. Only highlights here and there, unless you've scouted this guy closely. So you don't know what you're going to get there. Someone was asking Dawkins during one of his immediate availabilities, kind of how these kids are going to get used, and he kind of just said, "Hey, we're going to these guys are playing hard. We're going to get these kids involved, and we can." But he could be a wild card, Mike, because you never know how much PT he's going to get, and is he ready for college basketball?
We haven't had a Mr. Florida here since Ray Shipman, but he played football.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's a big honor to be Mr. Florida basketball, Mr. Basketball in Florida. Some of the top players in the country go on to have great careers that have that honor. It'll be interesting. I haven't seen him play myself, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do this year, and just add another scorer to the mix, which is something we've desperately needed the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's tough to rely on freshmen. You don't know what you're going to get, and you don't know where he fits in the rotation. That's going to be the really curious thing. Is to your point, we haven't seen these guys play, so curious to see the rotation between some of these young guys and some of these veteran guys, some of these guys who have potential, but haven't had a chance to play a lot yet, Mike. And then let's quickly go through the guys who are going to be on the blocks. 6'8", Sean Mobley, Mike. He's a junior, transfer from VCU. His actual last game at VCU was the game that we beat them in the tournament. He had 4 points a game, 2 rebounds a game. He did shoot 32% from 3, Mike. Dawkins also mentioned him specifically and said that he had really been progressing. He sat out all of last year, so he's at least familiar with the Dawkins system. Only 6'8", though, so he's not a huge guy, but I envision he'll end up playing a lot of his time down there on the block.
Right, and Dawkins compliments him as being the glue guy and a guy that's really put this team, brings the team together, is a good teammate, and knows how to win. So that's something you love to see out of these big guys.
6'11", Avery Diggs returns. He averaged 3 points and 2 boards a game last year. Mike, he played a lot with Colin Smith. They did a lot of high-low stuff. He was active. He got some boards. He blocked some shots. He set some good screens out there. He's the tallest guy on the team at 6'11", so he's going to have to be our rim protector when he's out there, stay out of foul trouble. He's a good player. I'd love to see him take a leap this year and get a little bit more aggressive on the offensive side, though.
Yeah, and on the boards too. I mean, we need somebody to attack the boards. It's last year I remember going over a bunch of games and saying, how did we win the rebound? Because some games it seemed like we couldn't get any rebounds, but I guess statistically,
fun fact: our leading rebounder last year was Dazon Ingram, who was our starting point guard. So we lose basically 2 of our top 3 rebounders in Ingram and Colin Smith. And so, yeah, somebody in this group here, and the other bigs really quickly, Jamil Reynolds, he's a freshman, and then Ibrahim Doumbia, he's a guy we've seen a lot of, big body, active body off the glass. He's another guy that you might see in the front court, Mike. But yeah, you got to wonder who's, again, we're losing, 3 of our top 4 scorers. So we're going to have to make up the points of Colin, of Caesar, and Dazon. And Tony Johnson, is he that guy? What are you going to get out of Darren Green? Is he going to, up his PPG? CJ Walker, what does he bring? So we've got to replace a lot of scoring. You'd look at the paper here and you go, okay, we got some options, but obviously you don't know how that looks until you see it. And then who's gonna get rebounds? Who's gonna be that post presence? We ran a lot of our offense through Colin Smith last year in the post, so we would go in and back out. So what's the offense going to look like? It wouldn't appear we have a post presence unless we're going to post up CJ Walker, which I don't think we're going to do that. So how does Dawkins kind of adjust his system this year? Will be another really interesting thing to see when the ball finally tips up.
A different team than we're used to seeing. I mean, a couple of years ago we had some big guys with Taco and Chad Brown. Chad Brown not afraid to crash the boards and get physical down low. Now it seems like we're transitioning to a smaller, faster team. But I mean, that shows how Dawkins can adjust and adjust his game plan, kind of what we get on Heupel for, not changing up his plans now to suit his team. Now we'll see how Dawkins handles it.
What's encouraging about this
different team for sure.
Well, yeah, what's encouraging is the youth, right? I mean, we were a veteran laden team for a few years there, and obviously, when BJ, Taco, and Aubrey and Chad all left, that kind of the bottom sort of cratered for a little bit. We had some guys who just weren't ready. Well, now we've got some experience. We got some youth, right? Obviously, Darren Green Jr. only being a sophomore, CJ Walker being a sophomore. We have some youth. Tony Johnson's a sophomore. You add in Darius Perry and Brendan Mahan, who are both seniors, and you got a good mixture of guys. It'll be interesting to see how Dawkins can mix that together. When you think about the rest of the conference, though, the coaches obviously aren't impressed with how UCF's going to mix it together. UCF picked to finish 8th in the American Conference. Houston, Memphis, SMU, Cincy, the Cows, Tulsa, and Wichita State were picked ahead of us. This was before the Greg Marshall firing at Wichita State, by the way, but UCF picked to finish 8th in the American Conference.
Yeah, Houston is the class of the league. They have been now for the last few years. The next tier kind of there with Memphis, SMU, and Cincinnati Memphis was pretty disappointing last year. Remember, they were supposed to have some big time players, and some of them didn't even get to play. James Wiseman, right? And we're kind of like in that next tier, I would consider us, with Tulsa and the Cows. I'm kind of just throwing Wichita out this year because that whole program seems to be up in shambles right now. But Tulsa and the Cows are teams that can compete in this league, and you can mix them in, and we can beat the SMUs and Cincinnati's from time to time. I think they're actually a little bit better than us, but that's not an automatic win for them. And then you got the dregs of the league with Temple and East Carolina and Tulane, teams we should take care of when we play them. And those are the games we have to win. We talked about how tough the schedule is at the beginning. It's very top heavy. When we play a lot of these games against Temple, ECU, and Tulane later in the year, we got to win those games. We finished the season with 4 out of 6 games on the road. 3 of the last 4 are on the road. So not only a tough start to the season, but a lot of road trips at the end of the year too.
Yeah, that ending of the schedule is interesting because, again, depending on where we fall at that point, we have the Cows at home. Then we're at Tulane, who's picked to finish, kind of close to the bottom here. I think dead last, actually. Then we have at SMU, could be tough. Then we're home for Temple, again, towards the bottom, and ECU towards the bottom. So we're not exactly playing world beaters outside of SMU in that final stretch, and we have the Cows at home. But that opening stretch, Mike, is just brutal, right? So, again, Oklahoma, Auburn at home, at Michigan, at Houston, at Florida State, then home for Cincinnati, and it finally lightens up and we go home for Tulane. So that'll be a real killer down the stretch. And lest we forget, Mike, too, hey, there's a little pandemic going on, and college basketball has already been affected. I think I saw Duke and I think maybe Arizona already had to cancel their opening games due to COVID concerns. So let's see how many of these we actually end up getting in. We got pretty spoiled on the football side that, things have kind of gone well for us. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out. But, certainly a tough schedule, Mike, in a young team. I guess we'll know early on what we can get out of the Knights. If we go 3 for 3 right there, Mike, that would certainly hopefully give you some really good hope that we are on an upward trajectory for the season.
Yeah. How long is it going to take this team to gel together? That's going to be the key. We don't have much time to get it going. The Oklahoma game to start off the year. Remember, we played Oklahoma last year. We lost a 1-point game to those guys on the road, where we held a 5-point halftime lead. That's a winnable game. And it's going to sound funny to say, but with that 6-game stretch, that might be a must-win game for us. It's a home game. It's the first game of the year, I know. But if you want to go 3-3 in that stretch, I think that's one of the games you have to win. Auburn is right now ranked number 35, but Auburn's a team that they're not even going to be in the postseason this year. They already deemed themselves ineligible with whatever.
Bruce Pearl strikes again, baby. Bruce Pearl strikes again.
So maybe we pull up the first 2 games at home. You got to at least win one of those first 2 games at home. You cannot go 0-2 and then go on the road to Michigan, Houston, FSU. We may not see a win until the day before New Year's. We could start the season out 0-6 if we lose those first 2 home games. So it's a must-win, I think. Saturday.
Let's not do that. Let's do this fun game again. A couple of things off the top. The NCAA tournament, I know there was talk about letting every team in. I don't think they've ever agreed to that. I don't think that's a thing, Mike. So we don't know what the tournament field will look like. We don't know how it'll be assessed. Obviously, with COVID, there will be some teams who are missing games. How that will be adjudged, or who the heck knows. But really, UCF schedule is 24 games, 20 conference, 4 non-conference, right? So let's do the math again this year, Mike. How 20 games in conference? If we want to secure a tournament spot, Mike, how many games we got to win out of that?
Oof. Well, we got the 4 non-conference games. Let's say we split those 2-2. Yep. You got to win. You got to go 12-8 in the conference.
So 12-8 will put you at 14-10.
I don't even know if that's enough, right?
That's not enough, no.
But then you gotta win a couple games in the conference tournament. It depends on who the wins are against. Because if you get a win against Florida State and a win against Houston or Michigan, I mean, those are resume boosters, right? We talk about the tier 1, tier 2 wins.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, it depends on who the wins are against. But then at the same time, you cannot slip up the teams like Tulane and Temple and East Carolina.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you got to.
Those losses going to hurt you just as much.
Yeah, you got to get 6 right there, right? So you got to win. So we're playing every team twice this year is the way the schedule breaks down based on the COVID stuff. So you got to get 6. You got to sweep ECU, Temple, and Tulane, right? They get you 6 right there. Yeah, and then you got to...
And Wichita.
And Wichita, hopefully Wichita. I mean, they're still tough to play at home, though. I mean, even if their coach is a wacko and he's not there anymore, that's a tough place to play at home. Then you got to steal some home games, Mike. You got to steal, you got to take care of business at home. You can't lose the Cal game at home. You can't lose the Tulsa game at home. I'd love us to maybe get the Cincy or SMU game at home, and then you got to steal a couple on the road. Is really how this kind of breaks down. I think if you go 14-6, 15-5, somewhere in there. If you go 2-2 non-conference, that gets you 16-8. Even that, I don't know how that feels, Mike, but it's going to be a whole new year, so it's going to be really tough to evaluate. Obviously, sometimes we're used to playing, 8, 9 non-conference games, plus our conference schedule. So who knows what it'll shake out, Mike? But I think at least 14 has got to be the floor of that, and even that's a little dicey.
Well, because we're so used to saying you got to win 20 games, but remember, we started, I think, 9-2 last year, and I ran through the list of teams we racked up those wins against. I didn't even include Bethune-Cookman as one of them. So, I mean, what's the new 20 wins this year? Is 15 wins the new 20 wins? Is 14 wins? Depends on the conference you play in, I guess. Our conference is pretty good. How many teams from this conference get in the tournament? Usually we've been putting 2, sometimes 3 teams in. You're going to need a big win like we had a couple years ago at Houston when they had College Game Day there for a game. Something like that. But it's too far away now to talk about getting into the tournament. I just like to see improvement out of this team, see these guys gel together, see the young guys, and set this up for the next couple years. Because we have potential now. You can see the talent coming in. It should be a fun year, Should be a pretty fun year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, this is one of the years it's tough to know what kind of team we have just yet, right? Because, you're going to rely on some guys we haven't seen play yet, and you need to see where some of the young guys have stepped up and developed, and how these freshmen are going to come in and impact the team. So I think there's a lot of youth. I think it'll be interesting to see how Dawkins kind of gets his rotation figured out, and who he goes with, and what happens from that perspective. Obviously the 3 ball is huge in college basketball right now. They don't, outside of Darren Green, maybe Darius Perry, they don't have a lot of consistent shooting from the outside. So, how will that materialize? There's no Frankie Burtz on the team this year. He graduated. So, a guy off the bench who you knew you can count on, hit some shots. Where's some of that outside shooting going to come from? And do we have size up front to get rebounds, right? 6'11", we go 6'11", 6'9", and then we have 2 6'8" guys and then a 6'7" guy. So, we're not exactly a Georgetown Hoya Twin Tower type of team down there, but it should be fun. Make sure you if you kept that ESPN Plus, Mike, if you need that password again, let me know. If you kept that ESPN Plus Saturday 2 p.m. so you can watch football beat the Cows on Friday. Saturday you can watch the Hoops team take on Oklahoma. It'll be a nice little double dip back-to-back winning way, Mike. That would be a perfect way to start off the 2020 basketball season.
Yeah, and you're talking about they might let every team in the tournament this year. There's talks about that. Isn't basically every team in the tournament, if you consider the conference tournament, basically everybody has a shot to win that and then get in the tournament that way, no?
Yeah, at some point, I don't think it got passed, but they were talking about literally just making every team that's able to play basically gets in the tournament. Then they're talking about these bubbles, Mike. College football, we're seeing like 14, 15, 16 games canceled a week these days. Obviously, at this point, we're, as a nation, we're seeing an uptick in COVID. I'm really curious to see how college basketball season will go because these guys are traveling a lot more frequently. Again, UCF's going basically to Michigan, Houston, and Florida State in the span of 12 days there. These guys are traveling around a lot. Airports, around people, social distancing stuff. What are the rules? Who knows? So sit tight. I guess enjoy the season while you got it because this one could be really interesting.
And if one guy tests positive, I think the whole team has to shut down for 2 weeks with the rules.
Yeah.
So that throws off your timing and everything to it and staying in game shape. The whole season could be a disaster. Who knows if the whole thing gets played? It's not looking good right now for basketball, but yeah. Well, at least have Saturday, 2:00.
Saturday, 2:00. We think that's going to get played. Just like we think the Cow game was going to get played against UCF, but who really knows? I'm sure we'll cover that in the next segment up, Mike. We have Mike's picks. Each week he picks games, And we tell you who's going to win. We'll see how that works out just up next. Sons of UCF. Don't move.
Mike versus everybody.
It's pick'em time. Mike has put together a pretty good season so far. And each week he picks a couple of games and tells you who's going to win. And then we come back here and we talk about it and we tell you if he was right or wrong. And that's the fun of this entire experiment. Mike is not necessarily one of those guys who is a betting sharp. I don't think he's fancies himself some guy who goes after Vegas. He's a normal guy. He looks at stuff and is smart about what he picks, Mike. So were you smart last week?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, congratulations.
I bounced back from my very rare, the only time it happened this season, losing week when I went 1-2. And I followed it up with a perfecto this week, 2-0.
Hey now.
I won the Tulsa-Tulane game. I won the UCF-Cincinnati game. And then the Houston-SMU game got canceled for COVID. So 2-0. I forgot to check my season record again. I want to say I was 14-11, and now I'm 16-11, but that is questionable. I have to go back and look at last week's sheet. But I know in the pool tracker, I'm still in first place, 40-22. That's a 65% winning percentage. I've now opened up a 3-game lead on UCF 87. Remember, it was tied with me for a while. I'm running away with the thing now. My own pool. Only a few weeks. I don't even know if it goes. I guess it'll go on December 5th and 12th for the makeup games. But I don't know if it continues after that, after the championship game, because this was only American Conference games. So I'm pretty close now to the end of winning this whole thing. And I've got 3 more winners this week. Crank up the music. Let's get this thing going.
Here we go.
Game number 1. SMU minus 11.5 at East Carolina. The Pirates are coming off their best game of the year. They won 28-3 against Temple. And like I just said, SMU did not play Houston this past week because of COVID. The Ponies are still alive in the American Conference, believe it or not. They only have 2 losses, and their 2 losses are 2 of the best teams in the conference, Tulsa and Cincinnati. But they can still win a tiebreaker if Tulsa loses a couple games, and maybe it's a 3-way tie with SMU and Memphis. Who knows? They're hoping for the same things we were hoping for last week. SMU's got a pretty good offense, and they're a pretty decent team. East Carolina only has 2 wins on the season, and that's because the Cows and Temple are just dreadful teams. I think SMU wins this one by 2 touchdowns, something like 34-20. I'll give up the 11.5 points and take the Ponies.
Yeah, the good news about UCF losing, the only bright side is I don't have to, worry about these scenarios that we have to get into the conference championship game, because those are making my head hurt. So that at least helps. Not have to worry about this. SMU have to win twice, lose once. Houston has to do something. So makes these picks a lot easier. That's for sure.
You don't have to watch Tulsa every week anymore.
I don't have to watch Tulsa any week anymore. Although they had a just unbelievable win. I can't believe Tulsa keeps doing that stuff, man. They've got that UCF like 2013 mojo going on.
Exactly what I was just about to say. Game number 2 is Tulsa +1 at Houston.
Foreshadowing. Look at that.
And the Golden Hurricane have been playing this year with a 4-leaf clover up their ass. I don't know how to explain some of these games that they pulled off. They did it again this past week. Houston, I expect them to come out and go up by 2 scores early in this game, just like everybody else has done against Tulsa. And Tulsa will have them right where they want them. Maybe this is finally the week where they slip up and they can't pull it off. It would be appropriate for this to finally happen now, when it doesn't matter to us anymore. I could see that happening. But I'm going to start giving Tulsa credit, man. Maybe they're just a team that knows how to pull off these close games. They've got a lot of experience in these close games now, and you're right. They have that 2013 UCF feeling where everything's just going to go their way. And I have them pulling out another close one this week. They're getting a point. I say they win outright anyway, 26-24. Give me the Golden Hurricane to keep this magic carpet ride rolling at Houston.
Am I? Is this controversial if I tell you that I'd rather see Tulsa win the American than Cincinnati?
I don't know if it's controversial. Everybody keeps saying now it's good for the conference if Cincinnati goes undefeated and you get in the playoff and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I might be there with you. I'd rather see. Is it because Luke Fickell is an asshole, as you call him?
It could be. That's factor one. I just feel like, to your point, Tulsa's just, it just feels like they're a bit of that underdog team, right? Like, they're that team that, they figure out a way to beat us, right? They figure out ways to beat everybody. They kind of feel like that underdog team, and I don't know, sometimes in sports it's more fun to root for the underdog. So not that Tulsa obviously wouldn't get to the New Year's Six Bowl, and I guess that would cost us some money overall. So financially, I guess I see why Cincinnati makes some sense too, but I wouldn't be mad if Tulsa took Cincinnati to the woodshed.
No, I wouldn't be upset either. But I could see them losing to Cincinnati in the regular season game and then maybe beating them in the conference championship game. They're splitting those two games somehow.
Yeah.
As long as Tulsa, if they did win the conference, didn't go to a bowl game and just get blown out by Ole Miss or some middle of the road SEC teams, then we got to hear it from these guys how our conference sucks and blah, blah, blah. So if they win the conference, I'm fine with it as long as they don't embarrass us in a bowl game somewhere. Yeah, I could root for them against Cincinnati.
That's fair enough.
All right, game number 3. The big game of the week. The rivalry game. UCF minus 25 points at the Cows. 3 tough losses for our Knights this year. Just came off one this week. And I think our high-powered offense is going to be coming into this game angry now and take it out on the Cows. We've won the last 2 years by 4 touchdowns each game. The spread is at 25. I think the Cows' only hope is to pull a FSU what they did to Clemson and just COVID this game and cancel it, because we're going to come in there, finally get some restitution for that 64-12 game. Heupel knows that the fans want blood in this game. He already mentioned that it's a trophy game. He knows that maybe he can save a little bit of his own self if he comes out and goes for blood in this game. And then he can keep the gas on in the first half. Don't let up. Get up really big at halftime. And then do what everybody wants to see him do. Mackenzie Milton back on the field for the second half of this game. I say UCF in complete dominating fashion. 62-3, blow out the Cows. The only reason we don't get to 65 is because Obarski misses a field goal. And
only one?
And the fans are actually mad that we don't put up 65 in this game. But winning easily more than that 52-point margin that we've been waiting for the last 13 years now to get payback for this game. This is Heupel's chance. There's no reason to rest guys. We don't have a conference championship game the next week where we have to say, okay, we can't get this guy hurt, this or that. We may not even have a bowl game. Who knows if bowl games get played? This could be the last game of the year. End it on a good note. Never stop scoring. I don't care about sportsmanship, this or that. No, all that is out the window this week. Strike hard, strike first, no mercy. At least 60 points on these guys. How much do we have to win by to make you happy in this game?
56.
56. Yeah. I think the answer, I was going to say 50, easy. That's a nice round number, but they beat us by 52. So at least 53 points or more, we have to win this game. And I will be happy. We even the all-time series, winning 4 in a row here. They started off the series winning 4 in a row against us. It would be 6-6 all-time when we win this game. And then we would have the largest margin of victory. And next year we can go for the lead in the series. 25 points. We should be up 25 by the end of the first quarter on these guys.
Yeah.
At least by halftime, we should be covering.
They're so bad. People forget their only win this year is against the Citadel. That was the opening game, and that was because the punter kicked the ball straight up in the air in his own end zone. I don't think they know who the quarterback is. They haven't been practicing because of COVID. They've lost 2 games, I think, so far this year to COVID, if I have that right. they obviously didn't play this last week. Do they have enough guys position group wise? They were bringing in like students to try out for different positions. I think the kickoff special, maybe we should do that, by the way. Maybe we need a kicker too. Who am I making fun of them for that for? They were bringing in like student managers for like practices and stuff, I think, if I read that correctly. So yeah, it's just not a good first year. It feels like they're just looking to get this one over with. Yeah, they're going to come out hype because it's a rivalry game. It's a trophy game, as Heupel says, but they don't have the horses to match up. Here's what I need, though, Mike. I need Richie Grant. I need some of those seniors on the team. I need Sam Jackson, maybe. I need those guys to make sure the young kids understand what this rivalry is about. Because if you and I talk to some players all the time, and we're like, hey, the Cows, and they're like, oh yeah, it was just another team. Because some of them are just so young, and they didn't feel the warts of that that mid 2000s when the gen shafting was happening and all that other stuff, right? Some of those kids might even been born at that point, or they were infants. So I need to make sure that those kids understand the importance of this game, and that the seniors tell them about all the things that have happened, and that this is our opportunity to kind of get one over on our rivals. So I need to make sure that's fully done, and I need Heupel to just knock off his nonsense and just. He's already, in a position where people are mad at him. Just make everybody happy, hype, and just run this thing up. Just run this thing up. You get nothing to lose. If Jeff Scott's mad at you, oh well. Like, buy him a fruit basket after it's all said and done. This is what the fans need out of you. You put 3 losses on the board this year in games that we probably should have won, and it is what it is. But this is what we need. This is part of your reparations for some of the things that have happened this year. Go out on a high note. And, Mike, if we could, Dylan Gabriel, in his press availability today, was asked about something with Mackenzie Milton and essentially hinted that we would see Mackenzie in this game. I even read it to say that we may see Mackenzie start. I don't know if that's how he intended it. But Gabriel made mention of expect to see something interesting, and then he kind of walked it back a little bit. But if nothing else, I need Richie Grant, or I need someone to gather these guys around and go, blow these dudes out for KZ. Get him back out on the field so he can come full circle in his UCF career. I think a lot of people assume this might be his last game at UCF, and he may go elsewhere. He's earned this opportunity. Blow these guys out so KZ gets out there.
Right. Some of these guys have never lost to the Cows. Otis Anderson and some of these McCray. But some guys were here for 5 years. They were there at the 2016 game where these guys scored that late touchdown on us. I wanted to do what Cincinnati did to East Carolina a couple weeks ago. Fake the punt when we're up by 50. Let's go for 2 every score. I don't want any doubt to be in these guys' minds. I want them to go into this offseason just knowing that we're completely dominated by us and there's no hope for the next few years. And yes, I want Mackenzie back out there. I want Mackenzie to throw for another 3 touchdowns once he gets back in, run for another one. There is no margin of victory that it's big enough for me to say, okay, that's enough. Stop it. No. I want to score on every play of this game and never stop. I want there to be a running clock in the second half because this game is so far out of hand. We got to see Milton out there. I don't think he's going to start. That would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I misread. Let me see if I can look the quote up really quickly while we talk here. But this one's got to be for KZ. Like, if that's not the rallying cry, if somebody's not pulling these guys aside and said, "Hey, you know what? You guys have seen this guy bust his ass for the last 2 years to get back out on the field. This is the opportunity for him to do that. This is the chance. This is the spot where it all took place. This is what it needs to be." And if someone doesn't pull them aside and say, "You know what? I don't care what our season is. I don't care if we're not going where we're supposed to go, but this needs to happen for this guy." Like, if someone doesn't do that, I'm going to be so disappointed.
If he starts and just dominates, we have a quarterback controversy. Is Dylan Gabriel transferring out and Mackenzie's coming back for another year next year? What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
It's the Cows, so I mean, I can score like 4 touchdowns on the Cows, maybe. I don't know, but yes, I don't think he's going to start. I think we build up a nice, comfortable lead in the first half, and he comes out in the second half, plays the second half, or at least a quarter. Or at the very minimum, he's going to come out there at the end of the game to all the time. Right? Yeah. This is the game he's in pads, and we see him on the field. Has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I'll reread this. It says, his quote is, quote, "If I was a fan, I'd want it to be a surprise. So I can't say yes. I can't say no. We'll just see what happens. I know KZ is doing great mentally and physically. He's ready to go whenever he's ready to do so. I'm going to let that be it and see what happens." Later, he then said, "I'll be honest. There's a bunch of surprises. I would just sit back and see. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he isn't. Who knows? You know what I mean? We'll see." So.
Well, if they are planning on him coming out in the second half and they don't want it to be in a close game, they better run the score up early because we know that it's the Cows, but 2 double-digit leads are not really safe with our team. We got to be up something real comfortable, 20, 30 points at least for him to come in the second half. And if you're taking Gabriel out, you're not putting him back in afterwards. You don't want them to make it close or whatever and bring him back in, which I don't think they would. But once he's out of the game, and then it's McKenzie time, and then I guess let him finish the game. You want McKenzie there at the end. He's got to be kneeling down at the end of the game.
I want to see, if I had my wish, Mike, I want to see him do something meaningful. I want to see him throw a touchdown pass. You know what I mean? I want to see him lead a drive. I mean, again, I don't know specifically where his health is at and what he's cleared to do. Contact, no contact, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see him go out and take a knee, but I want to see one last McKenzie Milton drive. Yeah.
That would be awesome. I want to see 4 more McKenzie Milton touchdown drives.
I want to see one last quintessential KZ, and I want him out there with McCray and Otis and, the guys that he's played with. And, I want to see a little bit of that, that KZ magic that we saw for so many years. Just one last time. Yes, if he can get out there and take a knee, I'll take that. I'll probably be a blubbering mess on my couch watching the game. But, if he can get a drive in and a touchdown and, one of those Rudy moments where you carry him off the field on your shoulders, that would just be that would I'm not saying it would make a 3-loss season better, but that would definitely change, how I feel about where we are right now.
Yeah, and it changed a lot of the ways people look at Heupel too, if he can pull off one of these big wins like that and put that in there with it. Just blow the Cows out and get McKenzie back on the field. I think that'd go a long way to helping his. I don't know.
I think McKenzie's. Well, I think his teammates want to see it too, right? I think those guys would fight for McKenzie to get back out there, and I think if Heupel robbed that from happening, assuming the doctors say it's okay, I want to be careful because I don't want to, have him throw McKenzie out there if he's not allowed to, right? But assuming the doctors say it's okay, if for some reason Heupel robbed that from taking place, I think the players would revolt. You know what I mean? I think, I think it would just be a thing. So hopefully it happens this week. I guess we'll tune in and see. Last one of the regular season, Mike. So we'll see what we get. Hopefully we get what we're hoping for. Hopefully Heupel finally gets rid of his nonsense and does what we've all been asking him to do for the last 3 years. He could have done it easily last year. He chose not to. This is the year. This is the perfect time for him to do this. If it does not happen on Friday, very disappointed I will be. Hopefully the game actually takes place. I guess we'll figure that out as the week goes on. You never know these days with COVID, but sit tight. We will obviously, if it happens, we'll get back next week, and we will probably break it all down and be a blubbering mess talking about hopefully McKenzie Milton's huge day in Tampa. But coming up, closing up shop, Cow of the Week. Sit tight. Don't go anywhere. Sons of UCF. Coming right back.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each week for unique yet common sense opinions on sports on the Jeff Allen Sports Talk Podcast. We will break down the sports world minus the hot takes with prominent guests and my stable of sports guys. It's sports conversation the way it should be. Search Jeff Allen Sports Talk wherever you get your podcasts or go to JeffAllenSportsTalk.com.
This is UCF Athletic Director Danny White, and if you don't want to be the Cow of the Week, you need to listen to Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Charge on, go Knights!
Let's go. Perfect week for this, Mike. Cow of the week. We are playing the cows. It's almost like we planned this. We didn't. I guess we kind of did, actually. So cow of the week coming up in a second. A couple of housekeeping notes. First off, just a big thanks to everybody for your support on our pregame effort this year and our new platform, our new forum, trying something different. It's not always perfect. We certainly have had some moments where, we sounded like we were in a vacuum. One of our internets have dropped. A guest didn't show up. So it certainly hasn't been a seamless studio ride. But the cool thing about it, it's been authentic. It's 100% us. It's kind of who we are and what we do. And we've had a lot of fun doing it. And Mike, I know it was something that you were excited about trying this year. And hopefully everybody out there has enjoyed the pregame shows thus far.
Yeah, I think it's been unanimous that it's been fantastic. Everybody has loved it. I haven't heard anybody say a bad thing about it. And that's even with, there's people that are out there that are trolls and haters and whatever. They can easily make fun of us for this or that, but I haven't heard anybody say anything bad. So it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of guests. We've had a good time doing it. We brought Trace out. Nobody knew where he was for a while, and we found him. And he got a beard going.
The best thing I heard is Trace went away to spend time with Urban Meyer's family. That's the best joke. I think it was in the dungeon.
But yeah, it's been cool, man. It's been real cool, and it kind of expands our show a little bit. And really, if we didn't start doing the pregame shows, who knows if we ever would have done that Alabama show? Because that kind of led into how we figured out how to work the thing. You've been doing a great job with the StreamYard, with the graphics and putting up slide comments. My favorite part of every pregame show is when you type something in and all I see you just cover your mouth with your hand. I know you're about to type in some kind of slide comment on there. Those are always fun.
That's my favorite part of the shit. That's actually the best part is when I type something in and I just wait for you. Trace doesn't react ever to him, but I know you will. So like I type it in and I just kind of wait and see like when you're going to recognize what it is. And then I see that you recognize it and then I see you laugh or at least smile a little bit. And I'm like, okay, at least that one hit. So this past weekend I had to answer the phone, Eric, a few times. Like what I knew that one was going to be good. So that's probably my favorite part of the show is control. If I couldn't control the graphics, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, we even had the Jeff Godfrey images there on the top corner this week. But yeah, Eric Lopez, man, a very popular guy.
Very popular guy. Update that ringtone, by the way, Elo. You got to update that ringtone. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I don't know, Trace and I were talking. How do we continue doing something like this? Do we do something during basketball season? Maybe during the midweek or something like, how do we keep using the video stuff? I mean, a lot of people put their stuff to YouTube channels, but if you can just get to Twitter or Facebook or our YouTube channel and where they're live doing something, like how can we capitalize on this? So we got a lot of ideas. I don't know what it's going to be just yet. We'll figure something out. I think, it's been good, getting Trace back involved and hearing his perspective on stuff. It's been great interacting with the fans. I think that's the thing I like the most is, seeing people comment in real time, getting their questions in real time. I hear all the time people listen to us and then they're like, we'll get the tweet back from somebody with something we said or something we asked. So the immediacy of being able to see people's reactions and answer their question or see their response, I think is pretty cool. So how we use it going forward, I don't know. We'll figure something out. We'll be around. We'll do something with it. But just a big thanks to everybody. If you missed us last week, again, we had Klubi Ali on the show and Tay Gowan, who we haven't heard from a ton. I don't think he's been on any of the other UCF-centric podcasts out there. So it was good to catch up with Tay for a little bit. I would love to have him on, in a pod form and maybe a little longer length. But it was cool to catch up with Tay, and we've had a lot of good guests throughout the year, Mike. It's been a lot of fun.
Should we just start doing these podcasts live on every week? People then can talk to us while we're doing the show. Put comments in. Maybe not every time. But every once in a while, do a live.
We can break out once a month. We could break out after a big game, before a big game. We could, Trace Trelko specials. The Trace Trelko show featuring Av and Mike. We got all kinds of options at our disposal.
I mean, we're basically just sitting around when we record these things anyway. The only difference would be I'd have to put my background back up, and just move that around in the garage. Talk to you guys that way. Then you can still just listen to the audio version anyway.
Thank God you said put a background back up because I didn't know what you were going to say you had to do if this was going to be on video, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, I mean, who knows?
I'll put a shirt on, I guess.
I think the cool thing about the pregame show is it's an event. People are getting ready for that, so We'll figure out what to do. If we can stream in some video here and there, we will certainly do that. But again, big thanks to everyone supporting it. Again, we appreciate the notes, the comments, some hardcore watchers and viewers each week. We love you guys for doing that. And hopefully we got one more to ride out here with the Cows, and maybe a bowl game option as well. We'll see where all that goes. And then, sky's the limit, Mike. But let's move on to Cows of the Week if you want.
So I won't be at this week's pregame show. I know you guys are still going to do it, but we got a family vacation going on. I am not able to join. I'm probably going to be a guest this week.
We might be able to send you a link. I might be able to get you with a link on there.
Yeah, so I'll pop on for a few minutes. I can't do the whole hour like we usually do. You guys going to do an hour and a half? You're going to do 2 hours this week?
I don't think so. I was thinking 30 minutes actually for this one. No, we'll stick to the hour. If we can, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, it's a holiday weekend. For us, getting a guest or two is always important. So we'll see who's available. Guest booking is both my favorite and least favorite thing to do. So we'll see who we can pick up. But yeah, stick around. You'll see the announcements this week as things go on. But again, if there's a game, we'll see how that all shakes out too.
Yeah. All right, we'll get it figured out. You guys will do a good job too, I'm sure. It might even be better without me. Then I'm out of a job. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, who's gonna have to? I'm gonna have to pick up your drinking slack, huh?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I racked up quite a few last week. I had to pee really bad by the time the show was over. An extra long show.
That was a 6-pack you were holding up there, right? If I counted all correctly.
Yeah, that's kind of cheating because I don't think that last beer was open yet. But I did go through those other 5 pretty easy. So, you want to start Cow of the Week now?
Yeah, start it up.
I don't have a specific cow, but since this is rivalry week and we're playing the Cows, how about just a tribute to Jeff Foxworthy here? You might be a cow if. How's that?
Let's go.
I got a few of them written down. I've been thinking about during the show. Probably could have a lot more. And maybe you guys can come up with some and help me out and send some over on Twitter or Facebook or whatever when you come up with yours. But if your compass has a north, east, south, and south, you might be a cow. If you don't know how to spell research, you might be a cow.
Yeah.
If you were at 25% capacity at football games before COVID, you might be the Cows.
25 seems generous.
Yeah, that's being generous.
That's really generous.
Or more like 10%. If your uniforms look like dumpsters, you might be a cow. If your biggest accomplishment is winning a mascot challenge, you very well might be a cow.
Very well, yeah.
And in the off season, if your favorite thing to do is brag about your future schedules, you might be a cow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are about a million more, but I just came up with those as we were doing the last couple segments.
If your weight room is outside,
I was good. Your weight room is a tent.
You might be a cow. Yeah. Yeah. If you've been playing on an on-campus stadium since 2008, you also might be a cow. If you're excited about being number 2, you might be a cow.
Yeah. If your slogan is "Bulls pee the head," you might be a cow.
So many good options there. Yeah, so many options.
If you steal everything from other universities, like your hand signs, you might be a cow.
It's true.
And your logos from Merrill Lynch.
Also true. Yeah, poor cows. They just can't get out of their way. The best thing about this cow week is that, you typically carry around that you don't like the cows, but, they're not a part of your life, at least for us, on a daily basis anymore because of kind of where we're both at. But then our good friend, I think it was UCF Sports Info, posted some article from like 2008, I think it was, from some clown in the Tampa Bay Tribune or Tampa Bay Times, whatever the hell the newspaper's called, basically saying that the Cows are moving ahead and should leave UCF behind, and goes through all the reasons why the Cows are great and UCF needs to leave and blah, 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 blah. And every time I read that thing, Mike, I don't care what, my blood still boils. It still gets me every single solitary time.
They were ahead of us. There was a point.
They absolutely were. Yep.
Young fans don't realize 10, 15 years ago, they were in a better conference than us. They were, eligible for a BCS bowl games when we really weren't. They kicked their ass 4 years in a row, especially the 64-12 game. And that was the final game. We actually almost won that game. That game ended up going to overtime. And in heartbreaking fashion, we didn't convert on a 4th down to end the game. But yeah, they whipped us, man. And they passed us by even after they started after us. We started football in 79. They didn't start till 97. And they were given a free pass and went straight into the Big East. And they did nothing with it. They had their chance. They had a golden ticket, a perfect opportunity to build on the program. Did nothing with it. They got ranked up to number 2 one time and finished that season unranked. And they've been a disaster ever since, though. And I've been enjoying every second of these last few years, just whipping on them. And that's why we say this week we got to have no mercy. Yeah,
it's just the closing line of this article. It's by a guy named Joe Henderson. It is the Tampa Bay Tribune. The series was fun for a while, but while it outlived its usefulness, one side gets that, the other, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's funny how those tables have turned. Another quote here earlier. The Knights have a nice little program, and they do well in their nice little league, Conference USA. The same league the Bulls left behind to join the Big East, where they can compete for a BCS berth every year.
Yeah, what scares me the most is one day if we ever lose to these guys again. That's what I have nightmares about. It's possible. Who knows what happens one day down in the future. So we got to enjoy this time now. I mean, when they were beating us, they were relentless on the message boards and just fans in general talking down to us, how they would say it wasn't a rivalry because we couldn't beat them and this and that. And they were unbearable. So now I'm enjoying whipping on them every year. But, hopefully one day we don't have another one of these winless seasons where they come back and beat us again some point down the road. So until then, just enjoy the times now.
Well, that's what I need. I need Heupel to reach back into the thing of the past. I need him to go and find somebody. I don't know who. I mean, I don't know who the best representative of that is, Mike. But find somebody who played in that 64-12 game and bring him into the locker room for the pregame speech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Find bring Kyle Israel in. I mean, he was on that team, I think, right? I mean, bring one of those guys in and have them talk about what this game means so that they know it's their time to go out and do this. I mean, Kevin Smith, I mean, he's not available, obviously. Rocky Ross.
Somebody that was there for all 4 of those years, 05 to 09, 08.
Yeah,
somebody that lost all 4 times.
Kyle would be perfect, right? Kyle was there for all those.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he was there in 08, but yeah.
Good point, yeah.
But there's got to be a few guys out there that were on those teams.
But bring in one of those guys pregame to the locker room to make sure these guys understand. You don't let little brother up. When you got little brother on the ground, you keep little brother on the ground.
If you're able to book all kinds of guests for pregame shows and our shows all the time, Heupel shouldn't have any.
Does Heupel need me to do this for him? I mean, does he need me to do the guest booking and get him somebody to be there in Tampa?
Sure.
I think Kyle appears on another show, though. I haven't heard it in a while, but I think he appears elsewhere. So maybe we can work that out. But I'll see if I can hook Heupel up. Mike, my cow of the week this week, buddy. You know who that's going to be? I was going to go Dabo Swinney, by the way, but that's an easy one. My cow of the week is you and I, me and you, because we were the guys who started off this season saying UCF's going to go 9-0 again. We're not going to lose a game. And we were wrong. We were wrong.
Cocky UCF fans.
Yeah, we were wrong. We were cocky UCF fans. And I think we maybe, by extension, Mike, are part of the problem. We're part of the problem that we get people all fired up, and they all thought maybe we'll go 9-0, and everyone thinks we're going to go 9-0, and then we lose a game and all that. Maybe we owe Heupel an apology. Maybe it's all our fault.
Yeah, that's possible.
It's not.
I already told you next year I'm not picking us to go undefeated.
Yeah, we can't make that mistake again, of course. But we thought this was going to be the year, and didn't work out that way. So we apologize. I mean, I think I'm a cow. I didn't predict a loss. It always feels weird to think we're going to lose the game because I never think we are. But we got this one. We got this one wrong. So that's on us. Error on us. Us.
Yeah, well, when we did those predictions, we weren't just doing it as homers. We really did believe we were going to win all these games. I mean, sometimes when you're a homer, you say things like you're going to win 50-23 when you don't really believe it. and I kind of said it at the time, that wasn't really a realistic prediction. But I did think we were going to win. I still thought we would win, something like 30-26 or something like that. But yeah, I really believed at the beginning of the year that we were going to win every game. And same thing last year, and same thing the year before. Now, the year 2018, we were right, and until the bowl game, but we still should have won that game, and would have with Mackenzie Milton. But the last 2 years, some of these games I can't explain. The Pittsburgh game, we should have won. The first the Tulsa game last year and the Cincinnati. We lose by such close margins. We should have won those. We could have won those. But also, you got to go back to other games where we went undefeated, and there were plenty of games that we should have lost, and we somehow won those too. So it all evens out. Football gods get you eventually. Maybe we're paying for some of these this year, then it'll lead to a better year next year or a couple years down the road. We'll say, hey, now we're undefeated because we lost those games those years. Now we're winning these games.
And next year, I'd rather be cow of the week because we thought they were going to lose too many games, and we ended up going undefeated. I'd rather take that cow of the week.
Oh yeah,
bring that one to us. But either way, we got one more left, Mike. It's a big one. Obviously, the circumstances are probably different than we anticipated, but there still could be a lot at stake here. Obviously, Mackenzie Milton getting on the field is a big part of this game. Keeping the Cows at bay is another big part. Getting revenge for past games is a huge part of this as well. So still a lot at stake here on Friday, 3:30. I think it's ESPN the game is on. So get to your TV again. Maybe some pregame show stuff. We'll let you know all about that. And it's Thanksgiving this week, Mike. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. We are thankful for all of you because you've allowed us to do this for 108 plus episodes. And without you guys, we'd just be talking to ourselves, which would probably be no fun. So big thanks to everybody out there in Night Nation. Thanks for always supporting us and giving us a chance to talk to you each week.
Yeah, thanks. Enjoy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have fun. We're getting a couple wins, football and basketball. Darren green bean casserole on Saturday.
There we go.
And
it's a good one.
And yeah, let's go. Let's finish this season on a high note at least, and start the basketball season off the right way.
That's how it is. Everybody be safe. Have a great holiday week, and we will talk to you hopefully on Friday. And Mike and I will be back next week on the show. As always, go Knights.
Charge on.